chair just blocking the path.
Oh, that's all right. No worries. No worries at all.
How are you doing today?
Good. How about you?
Good.
I said it's Thursday snow day. It seems like every Thursday there's a little bit of snow. It's like,
Yeah, lately there has been every Thursday. That's how I feel. Hello. Good. How are you? Good.
I go first on the agenda so we sit up here, you know?
Yeah, I think you are.
I'm so sorry. I'm horrible with names.
I'm Jory Wong, Wasatch Civil Engineering.
Okay.
So you probably met Brad, or Brad's been around a little more.
Yeah, we've met Brad a few times.
And Brad is the city engineer. We just are a little more familiar with the 3600 West project. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course, this has been Loomis.
Hey.
Good. How are you doing?
Good. It's cold out there.
This is so cold.
Today's been rainy, but okay until now.
2 feet of snow now.
There was some sleet in my backyard.
2 feet of snow. Of course, a lot of years this is when we get our moisture.
Yeah, yeah. After
Anyone happen
February.
to check the conference room to see if there's stocked with snow? We have the work meeting tonight, right?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, I didn't forget about that, but I forgot about my joking about snacks.
I wasn't joking.
I wasn't really joking either, but I was, I don't know, being snarky maybe. I don't know.
I've only had a Pop-Tart today, so I am not joking.
Oh, Pop-Tarts. Those things will kill me if I just eat them with all the sugar in them, because I'll be like,
My daughter, she caught something and was up all night sick, so I'm not sick. Woohoo, knock on wood. So,
my daughter had bronchitis and my son got strep throat. It's like it's just going around.
my son's bus, there's only 2 people.
They're like,
I was like, I'm not sick.
2 weeks ago, we voted on planning commission appointment.
oh,
Was that 2 weeks ago or a while longer? Maybe it was 4. I told him, but I was like, John, when I was talking to him, I was like, John, we can't force this through.
Here, sorry. Psst. I literally nest. I like spread out.
I am meaning have 3 kids, and they're a little past due when they were supposed to leave. So it's like, okay, let me throw on a sweater and hope I look somewhat presentable.
I was just saying, like, so my 16-year-old is sick.
Oh,
My 4-year-old last night was throwing up all night. I'm not sick. Like I said, knock on wood. But, and then my husband last week, sinus infection, ear infection, cold. It was like he got everybody sick.
he started it
It was his fault.
yesterday, and they were sure he had pneumonia. And so they did a chest X-ray, and they're like, I can't believe you're doing this. He must have, because they've given him a
we
steroid.
had a pretty good conversation that day.
They gave him an
Yeah,
Advil
I couldn't remember.
and an inhaler. And I'm like, see, well, that was yesterday. He's been sick for 2 weeks. I am.
So that's all I'm worried about, John. So
And he's like, why is it that I get a flu shot? And then I'm the only one that gets.
That's why.
That's why I said,
I was just worried about
I wasn't worried about that. Yeah.
yeah, and you know what? I have been faithful getting flu shots.
Just make things transparent.
Not yet.
And he's sick, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I'm getting it. I don't know if I care that much. Oh boy,
The season's almost over anyway.
that's what I'm like. Going, you know what? Okay, I am literally.
Jan, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, busy. Been out of town a lot more lately. Yeah, that's why I missed the meeting
I
last
know.
week.
When you said I'm coming from Salt Lake, I'm like, yeah, dude, we won't see you for 2 hours.
Yeah, no.
depending on how the traffic is.
Thursday was pretty bad.
Washington again?
To Washington?
Went to Washington and stayed in Olympia.
Oh, yeah, no, that's probably once every 2 years.
Oh,
That
okay.
not too often. This next week I'm going to North Carolina from Monday to Friday.
Okay. It is beautiful, but I hear the weather's really bad right now.
That's what I heard too.
Oh.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. I've been there once and I was like, this is a
yeah.
I got a new phone, so if it starts ringing and I don't know how to silence it,
You don't
just
know.
laugh at me.
I'm not ready with the settings yet.
spent 4 hours yesterday trying to fix my mother's wall phone, like landline.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
I was so mad. I had bought 3 different parts. I had been to Ace like I don't know how many times. The furnace went out this morning, but my sister-in-law says to me, "Hey, Mom's phone might not work because Seekins
Yeah.
has been out." They're like they didn't even get it up and running until 10 o'clock last night.
Right,
And I'm looking at her
AT&T.
going, and no one minded to tell me. Sure enough, first time it started to work. I'm like,
Yeah, it was all messed up yesterday.
oh my goodness. Let me tell
I'm
you.
hoping that my kids can help my parents with it. Skips me.
Skip you. Kids can do everything nowadays.
I said, please, I don't want to put anybody through. Okay, don't even know if this is charged. Well, I was this morning.
We'll
No, I
find
didn't
out.
bring that.
What percentage?
Enough. How's she doing? Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Every Friday, I've been counting down the weeks. Okay, it's week 3. How's it going? She's like, I bet.
Recording in progress.
About to ask if you were here. Hi, how are you doing?
Good.
Funny, I have counsel to realize that my brother's involved in this.
What? What's he done?
I says, I have to come to city council to realize that my brother's part of this. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Oh, is he,
Yeah, wrap up
he's on the
He's
board?
on the agenda.
activity, huh?
I'm like, I wonder if he knows that.
I'm gonna go with probably not.
He might not.
Ran into your sister the other day,
Ran into Leanne?
Leanne. Yeah,
So, which one of these guys are from Boston?
these two.
That's who she was.
I was at their office.
You really retired and went back to work? What was wrong with you? Have I not taught you anything? I don't know.
Have I not taught you anything?
I know, she's like 6 years older, but you know.
Ready?
6:30.
All right, if everybody can find a seat, we will kick this off. All right, we're going to call this city council meeting to order today, Thursday, the 6th day of March. Welcome everybody here and whoever's in Zoom land. We'll start a pledge with Councilwoman Wilson, and Councilman Favero lead us in a prayer moment of silence.
If everybody would join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father, thank you for having us here tonight. We can all travel safely throughout the evening. I'd like to thank you for all of our many blessings that this city provides. I would like to ask now that we bless everybody and their families throughout the city, and also thank you for everything you provide for us. I say these in thy name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you both. First item, approval of the minutes from last meeting. Any corrections?
I did want to kind of clarify, I don't know if it, since it was a motion, that $2,000 was just, so we usually make the $1,000 donation. That was just increasing our 1,000 to 2,000 for them to, Western Weber, CTC, to use however they see fit. And I just wanted to kind of get it done right away since they had the youth retreat coming up. So the full 2,000 wasn't for the retreat. It was just so they had the funds. So
It's
that they
just a
could-
donation.
It's just a donation.
Yeah.
Not-
It's-
1,000 was budgeted and we just
Increased it to 2,000. So that was just a clarification.
Just keep that note when we do budget discussions so that we either raise that or leave it the same, whatever.
Yep. So that was just a clarification, but not
Perfect.
necessarily a change to the minutes.
Okay, how about a motion?
With that clarification, I will make a motion that we approve the minutes as written for February 20th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, public comments. Anybody here wish to address the council? Anybody in Zoom land? All right, planning commission report. Welcome.
Good evening, council. Pretty easy, pretty fast meeting. Nothing much on the agenda last week. The two things that we did have was the rezone. A public hearing was held for the property that we just annexed in up here that was part of the county. It was 7 acres. It came in at A1, and we recommended approval for the rezone for that to go to 18.5, as it currently is in alignment with the general plan. And then we had a site plan application for Barker Motors over here in the, I still call it Royleys, the Royleys area there in town. So they're renting a little space there to kind of just do a couple cells out of an office there, nothing big that they anticipated. We made a motion on that one to approve the site plan as long as they only have, I think it was 3 parking stalls occupied for any given time for storage of cars. So we didn't want any mass, advertising or long rows of cars over there that are for sale. So it's more of a, he sounds like he's going to do it kind of mobile mostly, but he had to have an office to get his license. So
Is that a different car dealership that was in there a few years ago?
I think it is different. Yeah, same basic thing, I guess.
I think they were doing like online sales or something and really never touching the cars.
Yeah.
They did appointments for test drives.
Oh, okay.
Where they had to bring the car in. They kept it somewhere else stored.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you're recommended to approve 3 stalls for.
Just 3 stalls that can be used for the storage of vehicles for the dealership, if you will. So I didn't recall him necessarily mentioning it was, online sales necessarily, but it's just a spot for him to have.
I think it's
It's
all right.
it's a requirement to have a license for to sell automobiles. You have to have a commercial space or something like that. So we just kind of checked that box, more or less. It sounded like to me. So.
Ah, good.
We made the motion to approve that site plan as it was presented, so that was it.
We're gonna be like Riverdale. Look at this. We're gonna be
We got
Auto
car
Row.
dealership out here now.
We got Cook Auto.
Gotta start.
Hey, we're up to 2 dealerships, man. We're cruising.
We're getting big time out here. So that was
Alright.
it.
I have one for you.
Okay.
Actually, I have 2.
Okay, I'll try.
So, just some things to take back, and I texted Jared earlier today, just kind of filling him in on a couple thoughts, but I was approached by a guy that's bought a lot, and he says, John, why can't I build my outbuilding first and live in it for a time while I'm building my house? I can build that so much cheaper than I can, my home right up front. And so we kind of talked through it, and he made sense. He says, put a time restriction on it. If I build my secondary dwelling first, because it's going to be cheaper and smaller, right, obviously, live in it while I'm building my house, put a restriction of whether you guys want to do 6 months or 12 months before they have to start building their primary residence. I don't see a problem with it. But anyway, just some things to kind of look at and go over. Make the fine steep enough that if they don't start it, that it really stings, right? Because that's the one thing we don't want, right? But I think as a temporary situation, might help a few people and restrict lot size maybe that we allow that on. I don't know.
One thing to
So-
think about is not only the start time, but a finish date.
Yes,
That's more of concern to me,
sure,
you know.
yeah.
Yeah, you can start it whenever you want, but it has to be finished within a year or
Yeah,
whatever.
especially if they're self-building.
Exactly.
Yep.
It's tough.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, anyway, just
I'll
a
bring it
thought.
up, yeah, I'll bring it up in the next
And
meeting.
then also possibly looking at approving a gun range on a A1, A2 as a conditional use.
It's not in there right now currently, and we're thinking adding it, is what you're saying? Okay,
Maybe have that discussion too.
Okay.
There's somebody looking, and I've sat down with them and located, I think, probably the best piece of property that would not affect anyone, other than to hear a bang now and again, but, yeah, they want to do a lot of training stuff. There'd be SWAT training, there would be military training and all sorts of stuff,
That's kind of
interesting.
so,
Okay.
yeah.
I
We
will
can chat
present
later.
whatever you want me to present.
Yeah, so, and Jared knows about those, but I figured
Oh, he does?
everybody should and could know, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Steve informed him a little bit about the shooting range deal, but not the,
We didn't talk on the phone, it was just a quick text.
oh, okay, all right.
So, leave it to you guys to work through that, and if you want to, and,
Okay.
yeah.
I'll let him know.
Okay,
Awesome. Thank you.
yep, thanks.
Anything else? Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, presentation from the Western CTC,
Weber.
Western Weaver. I know one of them,
I know one of them, I was like,
Okay,
so you'll have to introduce yourself.
I will, yes, for sure. My name is Nicole Blanche, and I'm the coordinator for the Western Weber CTC. And so part of my presentation, I'll kind of talk to you guys about what that is. But first, we have part of what the coalition likes to do and has been working towards trying to do a lot more this year. We have a youth council. Last year, the kids came up with a positivity campaign that they wanted to promote and start to recognize their peers, community members, and things like that. And so they came up with a grit was their campaign, that kids have grit, adults have grit. We all have to go through things, but we're resilient, and we can overcome all of the, all of the obstacles and challenges that we're faced with today, and just be champions at school, in our community, or in our work. And so as the CTC has gone throughout the year, we've been able to recognize lots of kids at Student of the Month at Fremont and Westfield and the junior highs. And now we're expanding out into the community, trying to get those grit awards out. And our very own John come on up, from Kent's Market, the manager, John Jones, was nominated as a community champion by our coalition. And so I wanted to have him come here tonight to recognize him as the community champion for Western Weber. And we're gonna present him with his Grit Award, and then also his, a certificate from the coalition. But
Nicole?
we just really appreciate I'm a
Nicole.
little bit newer to this position. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, while you're presenting.
Oh, I see, sorry.
No, just didn't want to interrupt, but, okay.
I get talking and
I
rambling,
know.
so interrupt me.
Sorry.
Anyway, I'm a little bit newer to the position. I just started in December, but our previous coordinator, Cindy Pendleton, if any of you know her, she runs our youth council still. So she's still very much a part of the coalition, thankfully, because she is all-knowing and I love her to death. But she has, how much the store has helped, just even the coalition, we're able to do our take-back events there with prescription drugs. They've allowed us to use the store for that and support that with the sheriff's department. And then there's lots of signs out in your parking lot for the GRIT campaign and just how much you guys have done for the community. So we just wanted to take a second to honor you and recognize you for all the hard work that you guys are doing there. And we really appreciate the support. Awesome. So thank you very much. I'm going to be brief because I'll be honest, when I get nervous, I start to talk really fast. And there's a podium, and it reminds me of when I have to do talks in other locations, and then I notice that I start to do this. So I promise I'll stand still and try to, calm myself here. Anyway, so part of the CTC, I'm not sure if you guys are very familiar with that. Is anybody very familiar?
Rachel gave us
Rachel
a
is, yes.
brief rundown last couple weeks
perfect.
ago.
And I so appreciate that. And I apologize. I came down with horrible bronchitis. My wonderful daughter was able to gift that to me, and I've been battling it ever since. So I appreciate that Rachel stepped in and helped us out the other night. But I just wanted to give you guys a brief kind of rundown of what we do and why we really want to work more in the communities as well as our schools, because really our goal is, prevention is our goal, right? We want to prevent all sorts of things when it comes to substance use, mental health issues. Those are our risk factors that we're addressing, but we also want to address protective factors, which are, we want to recognize our kids and we want to recognize our community and we want to support them in the things that they are championing in their communities. And so Western Weber Communities That Care, it used to be called Fremont 5, so maybe that is more familiar to you. When Westfield was built, we took Westfield and Fremont together as a coalition. And so Mountain View Junior High, Rocky Mountain Junior High, Walquist, and then 9 other elementaries that feed all into those schools are now part of my area. So we have a little bit bigger, and 2 charter schools within the area as well. So we have a little bit bigger area. We have Far West, Hooper, Marriott Slaterville, Plain City, Taylor, Warren, West Haven, West Warren, and West Weber. So that's the area that we cover as Western Weber. We were established in 2018 with the goal to provide resources and education and opportunities to our community to support productive, healthy youth and adults, and to reduce and prevent youth substance use and mental health challenges. So we want to, increase that resilience, the attachment to family and community, the attachment to the school, using the Communities That Care framework. There are several coalitions throughout the county. There's one for Roy High, Bonneville High, Weber High, Morgan, and now Ogden and Ben Lomond will have one. So it's expanding and we're able to reach more, but it does come off of an evidence-based framework. So we do use science and evidence-based programming to reach our kids through classes, our adults through family classes, and I'll kind of go through all that a little bit later. But we want to work with families, schools, social services, law enforcement, community councils, all of that to be able to bring us all together to combat this for our kids and our communities so that we can address the needs. So impact on schools, that's huge. That's been one of my major pushes. I have 5 kids of my own that have all been part of Fremont. I have 2 still that are working their way through. But I've had 3 graduate from Fremont. 1 will graduate next year, and then I have a younger one at Walquist. My husband teaches here at Walquist, so we've grown up here, me and my husband. So West Weber is where we are. So it's a blessing for me to be able to work here and have been raised here and raise my kids here. So I do care so much about this area. I lived in Plain City for about 10 years when my husband and I were first married. So I love this area, and I'm so excited to be able to represent them and do the things that we need to do. So in our schools, that's obviously because I have kids, it's a huge passion of mine to be able to reach our youth, right? We want to be able to, it's not getting easier for them as they grow up, right? And go through the things, and just being in the schools a little bit that I have been, I just see so many different, we've got the kids that are, doing okay, but then the kids that are struggling. And I hear from my husband as well in the junior high, just how hard it is. I have a daughter that's a counselor at Roy High, and then another daughter that's a kindergarten teacher at Silver Ridge, and just the varying ages, they all have their same struggles, right? Home, family, schools, community, just the obstacles that they have to face. So we want to be able to engage with our schools as a CTC and not just focus on academic outcomes, because obviously we want to see our kids graduate and move on, but we also want to help them with socially and emotionally, be able to develop and grow into those adults that they need to be good citizens, good leaders, and good members of our communities. So we collaborate with our teachers and our counselors and administrators. We try to help them identify early warning signs of behavioral or emotional issues to provide those resources necessary to ensure that their needs are met. If you've heard of the SHARP survey, has anybody heard of that? We use that data. It comes out every other year. So 2025, we'll have new data in the fall, which is super exciting. It's been fun and prior to working with the coalition, I worked for the health department. And so I was able to, utilize SHARP data as well there. And I do love numbers. So I love to be able to break that down and kind of geek out on that. So the SHARP survey provides us with specific cone information for our schools, and it'll be nice. This year we'll have Westfield's cone and now have Fremont, so we can separate the two communities, but also see what the shared struggles are so that we are not, because we want to unify our two communities. I already see with my son in sports and different things that there's a dividing line, and so we want to try to bring that together as much as we can so that we can keep us united and keep us, collaborating. But within that SHARP survey from 2023, the coalition identified the risk factors of depressive symptoms, perception of drug use, and low commitment to school. And so those were our risk factors we're addressing for this next up until 2025 when we get the new data, which hopefully it has decreased, and we can see that. If not, we'll work even harder to keep working on those same factors. And then the protective factors that our kids see as they do see that there's pro-social involvement, recognition in both their community and the schools. So we just want to continue to encourage that and do that. So by going into the schools and having their teachers or their administrators or their counselors recognize them for the things that they're doing in their schools. And it's not the kids that they pick for this. I just went and did one at Walquist today. The kids that they're picking are not the student body officers. They're not the athletes. They're the kids that are the fly under the radar kids that struggle and you don't know it. But when you hear their stories, I cannot leave a school without tears in my eyes. Just knowing what they've gone through, but then to see the light in their eyes when they are being told, we see you and we know what you're going through, but we recognize it and we applaud how hard you've worked. And just the recognition that they get is just amazing. But we can't just work with the schools alone. We need to work with our community. So that's where it comes in with our community, our city councils and our mayors. By working with us and we have some on our key leader board, some on our community board. But the efforts that we work with in the schools will ripple out into the community. By helping the kids do that, they'll be able to take that and share that into the community. So we want to strengthen our bonds with our residents, our schools, our law enforcement, local government and businesses, families, guardians, and friends. The stronger the community ties are, the greater the connection we have and the responsibility we have to take care of each other, right? So the impact that has on the youth, that's our focus, obviously, is prevention and youth, but we need our adults to help us with that in our communities. So by prioritizing the prevention and providing support through the school and community, we're more likely to excel academically, maintain positive health, and develop the skills that our kids need to navigate life's challenges, whether it's preventing substance abuse, reducing school dropout rates, or just promoting healthy relationships. So the CTC addresses those things and wants to help build that resilience in our young people. So I just wanted to, just a couple of things, and Jamie's here with me because we are so grateful that you guys made that donation to we really appreciate that. It takes a lot of time and effort and funding to be able to put together events to help support our kids. So we do a lot of events like that. We also, the CTC does, we do awards, and that's part of the reason I want to come out and do these things and talk to the city councils and stuff is I go into the schools and I'm like, oh, you're just the ones that give the awards. Well, we do more than that. We can do way more than that. So in the next couple of weeks, we've got, I'm doing a literacy night at Silver Ridge. We've got Hope Night coming up with Fremont. We've got classes that we're offering in Marriott Slaterville. We can offer them here. I brought some stuff that I can leave with Rachel or whoever, and you guys can look through them. Classes that we offer that are for parenting and families and our youth as well. We work with our PTAs and our community councils. We do the Take Back event, like with our Kents here in Plain City. We host graduation events to help have a safe place for kids to go after they graduate. Go to that party and where they can be surrounded by, better options maybe, I don't know. Training school and community on SHARP data, prevention, and the social development strategy. That's what our main program is based off of. And then we have a youth council, and we also work with other city youth councils for training opportunities. We work with our health department, lots of city events, our positivity campaign, we're still pushing through that with the GRIT. And then we do have monthly meetings and stuff. But James here to talk about the upcoming event, just to kind of help promote that. It is this Saturday, so it's coming up right around the corner. But it's just a small taste of some of the things that we can do. So I'm gonna turn the time over to Jamie really fast, and then I'll leave these with you as well.
Okay. All right, Stacy, are you Stacy?
Yes, and I printed everything out for him, and then I have the video on one.
Okay, awesome. All right, I'm Jamie Christofferson. Most of you know me. My roots are here, and lived here for, I don't know, a while, got married, lived here for another 10 years, and then we moved up Idaho, and then came back and went to Marriott-Centerville City. So I love Plain City. I run the Marriott-Centerville City Youth Council. We have about 34, 35 youth on our council. Been doing it for about 6 years, and they are phenomenal, ages 12 through 18. And anyways, throughout this process, I love inspiring, and I love building these kids and their confidence and helping them get through their anxieties and stuff like that. And this last year, I had an inspiration to do some like little mini workshops for our group. And when I brought it to our presidency, do the fly, you know what? We'll just, okay, that's okay. I'll just put this up here so it's big and you can see it.
We've got the flyers here that we can look at. Do you want to turn it around?
Yeah.
So that they can see it?
This is our Bribery Enticement Unit. I'll tell you a little bit about it. Anyway, so when I brought it to our youth presidency, and we came up with topics about it, they came up with power of thoughts, anxiety, confidence, healthy relationships. I mean, these were some of the social skills. These were some of the topics they came up with, which were pretty impressive. And as we were talking about it, and we were just gonna do our community and do it on a Saturday, they're like, we're on the Hope Squad. We need to start, I want my friends to hear this. Like, their minds just started going big, and they're like, we need to share this with everybody. And so this became bigger than us. We went to Fremont last year and talked to Alicia Mitchell, the principal, and we needed to host it somewhere at that big of capacity. And she said, I love this, let's do it. So we did it, and we were inspired by some speakers. You'll kind of recognize one of your own over here when we watch the video in just a second. But we thought maybe 50 people would show up. We had no idea the impact that this has, and the kids are craving these messages, and we wanted it at their fingertips because they're really struggling, but they don't know where to look for it. And so we had them pre-register, and we enticed them with some raffle. And anyways, the day before, and a lot of people registered the day or two before, we had 167 register. Okay, so the day of, about 50 of them didn't come, but we had 110 surprise us and show up. So we had 210 youth that came to this, and such an awesome thing. And they started with a keynote speaker, and then they rotated to those classes and workshops every 30 minutes. And then we had lunch, and then we came back for some fun raffle and another little speaker. Anyways, it was phenomenal, and kids were already this year asking for the principal and the counselors if we were doing it again. And I'm like, that just makes it awesome. We did a post survey. Do we have any of that? Post survey? Any comments? That's okay. That's okay. We did a post survey, and we had a photographer come the day before to kind of help us with some grant money and stuff like that. The post survey from some of the kids that came back was just, it touched our hearts, and they really got some impact. They wish they had more. They wanted to hear the speakers speak more. They wanted more reflection, and they wish their friends had come. So pretty dang awesome. So here we are doing it a second year. Our budget was smaller and our demand was bigger. We have now 2 high schools and 3 junior highs. So last year we did 7th through 12th grade. We realized the maturity level wasn't quite there with the younger ones. And so this year we tweaked it to 9th through 12th. And maybe in the future we'll do a junior high, one. But anyways, we are needing the community. Marriott-Centerville has donated. But we need all the cities to help with this. It cost us, and that's with people donating a lot, about $8,000 between the lunches, the speakers, the janitorial fees. the list is, and the advertisement, the list is big. And yes, we do, yes, this is kind of a win-win. They come, and the principals have offered attendance credit, which is huge, because they realize the demand and the need for emotional support for kids is greater than the academic. Like, they can't excel in academics unless they're doing well emotionally. And I don't think one kid, every kid needs this. Every kid needs this. No matter if they're the jock on the football team or the homecoming queen, they're all needing some emotional support. So my passion is this, and anyways, we have got 1.0 attendance credit if they come. They get free lunch, and we do some giveaways, raffle prizes, so it's just a win-win fun event all the way around. And I have a little video, if you'll play that. It's just a minute and a half, and that's last year's, and obviously we're doing it here again in 2 days. We already have 167, I think, registered. And like I say, last year, they registered the day before and came the day of. So we will see how many we get this year. But go ahead and watch this, and then we'll touch base. Just a teeny little taste of what we did. Did you recognize one of your own? Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, I knew that guy.
And he's coming back this year too. I'm so happy.
You really must be desperate.
Let me tell you a little bit about our classes this year. So I told you about the last year's topics. This year they got together, and these were the topics they came up with this year. And I have some amazing speakers to go along with them that are donating their time and stuff. So our keynote speaker is going to be Jenny Taylor. She's going to come and share her message, and she's got a lot of messages in her keynote speaker. Then we're going to divide up into 4 groups, depending on their lanyard: blue, orange, yellow, green. And they will go around to each room, and I'm guessing we'll probably be about 60 per class, because I think we're kind of planning about 240. And the first class will be Julie Lee. She is talking about healthy relationships, communication, and social skills. And she actually had a mental breakdown at age 21 and with unhealthy people in the workforce. And she's wrote a book, she's got a podcast, I See You, and she helps all sorts of public speakers. She coaches them. So an excellent speaker we've got coming. The other speaker is Larry Hadley. He is my speaker on respect and confidence. And you guys know Larry Hadley and who he is. And he's going to do my wrap-up activity. We're also giving him journals at the beginning. Jenny's donating some journals. So at the end, during lunch hour, we're going to have a 10-foot banner that says, "What did you learn today?" And we're going to have Post-it and stick-it notes all over the lunchroom, so they can write down what they learned that day and go stick it on the banner and just have a reflecting 40 minutes of lunch, and then we'll take it back in for our wrap-up activity in the auditorium. My last 2 speakers are Max Steitzer. He grew up and went to Ben Lomond High School, had long hair, and was a very big introvert. And he just had all these messages like, "I'm no good, you're not going to amount to anything." That was the messages that he was hearing when he was a teenager. And he decided to join the Air Force after high school. He went to Air Force. After 6 years, he was going to get out. And somebody came to him and said, you need to go to be a general. I'll get kind of emotional on this. But he decided to go to officer school, and he became a general and worked for the next 40 years and worked on the Pentagon for 7 years. Anyways, he is talking on getting out of your comfort zone and taking risk. He'll be an excellent speaker, and he's now an extrovert and a public speaker now, and he's back. And his in-laws actually live in Plain City, the Roses. My last speaker is Abby Monroe. She is talking about overcoming hard things. And she grew up in a trailer park and dealt with lots of hard things in her life. And she has now got her master's in communication, and she is the director at Ogden Regional Hospital. And she is going to come speak on overcoming hard things. So I've got very personal stories, just exceptional lineup of speakers. And so
You dug deep.
What?
You dug deep. I'm impressed.
We are super
No,
excited.
I'm very impressed with the quality of speakers you have
We
coming.
are super excited. I think we've noticed we need to do this at Fremont, and we need to do it at Westfield. And that's why we are asking for support from all the cities. And the coalition helps too. And so we're asking for $2,000 for this event, not this year. We're grateful for the donation this year. But for next year coming up, because it takes a lot to run these two events, and we'll have to do them on 2 different days. And then we can touch more kids, and the need is there, and people are talking about it, and we're hoping we don't have to turn anybody away this year, but we might have to because of the space and my lunches. And so we're really excited going forward. Do you have any questions for me?
No, I just got to give you kudos because I think it was my second year as mayor is when this all started, the CTC, the Fremont 5 started. And I was on the key leader board, and it never got that traction. And you guys have taken it in the last 2-3 years and just completely moved it from, we had a very part-time director from the health department and stuff, but I'm very impressed.
Yeah.
I'm very humbled sitting here talking, almost emotional of what you guys are doing.
Yeah,
That's
we're
awesome.
super excited. I get emotional because I believe in it so much. And if we can inspire one person, it's going to make all the difference. And that's what we're here for.
And I do want to follow up that this was driven by the youth, this idea, and that these topics, this is what they want to hear.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put this flyer, it's got a QR code for signing up at the sign-up desk so that you can, I know you may not want to come up here and get this, but I'm going to put the flyer back there. But I also posted this flyer on the You Know You're From Plain City If Facebook page. So you can go to the Facebook page. It's got the QR code, and you can also get the actual link so that your youth can go to the link. It's got all of the speaker information. Take a look at it. You can sign up there as well. And it's not just limited to if you're a student at Fremont or at the Westfield high schools. If you are homeschooled, if you're at an alternative school, my 16-year-old son, he does a Zoom class. He signed up for it. If you're at a charter school, homeschooled, going to Weber, a high school over at the Weber College, you're welcome to come to this as well. It's not just Fremont and Westfield. And it's also on the Plain City official Facebook site as well. So
The
please
QR code
sign
has
up.
all the details.
But sometimes, like if you pull it up on your phone, you can't click the QR code. So
Is
I've also got the actual link as well on the website, on the Facebook.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, ladies,
Does
very
anyone
much.
else
I
have-
wanted to add, I just wanted to say a few things. I'm going to echo what the mayor said as I was sitting here listening to you guys tonight. As a city council, as this body, we get focused on the future as it relates mostly to land use, right, and things like that. And obviously there's more than that to this job, but that seems to be the biggest thing that we focus on for the future for adults and families. But very rare do we talk about the youth, right? And so when we do, such as tonight, it just makes me think, I'm so grateful that there are people like you that think about this and are worried about that, because that's our future too. And so just like I said, what the mayor said, thank you, and I appreciate it personally, and then as a body, I'm sure we can all say the same, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you.
And just real quick, John gets an award for helping these guys out, but Kent's has been phenomenal in my 7 years as mayor at chipping in at every event that we ask them for. Never once has it been, let me think about it. It's always been, how can we help? So, another feather in the cap for Kent's and John. I mean, you've been out here, you were originally just store manager, right? They shuffled me around. Yeah. But now he's, yeah. Well, we'll keep you. You bet. Come on up to the mic for a sec. We got to have it on record. My mom and dad have got to hear it.
Okay, but no, it's so wonderful to hear, your input tonight, and just thinking about it, we just love to be part of Plain City so much, but just in behalf of Kent's, we'd just love to help out with this as well. So please include us in the future. I mean, we would love to participate in more, with the lunches and other things. I did recognize some of the, events on the videos, but, Kent's just wants to be more and more involved with things like this. We employ so many of the youth as well, and just so happy to be part of everything. So please keep us in mind as a business and organization where we can help out as well. So, okay,
Well,
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Kent's is more than just a great tax revenue source for us. That's being truthful. We appreciate you guys. Okay. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
We got an update from Jory Wallen with Wasatch Civil and Joey. Oh, you told me your name was Jory yesterday. I swear, when I shook your hand, I thought.
Sometimes you forget your name.
Jory's been here plenty of times. So then I'm like, well, that guy's got to be Joey then. But we got Ben and Jory here. You're going to fill us in on 3600 West.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks, Council, for having us tonight. Our goal here is just to kind of share an update on the project. As you're aware, this project is a federally funded project. We've obtained funds through Wasatch Front Regional Council. This project extends on 3600 from 1975 all the way to Kent's. There's various components to that, and a portion of 1975 is included in that, kind of going up the corner, tying in some of that sidewalk, redoing the crossing there for the school kids and things like that. The project was originally scheduled to go to construction this summer, and through some changes, and I'll outline those here in a minute, but this project is being delayed until spring of next year construction. Our plan is to get this advertised and ready to go by August of this year, and that advertising process takes a little bit of time, and getting a contractor on board this fall so that we can have them start early spring of next year. Some of what has caused this delay, and kind of want to outline that, is just understanding this process of this federal dollars is a little bit of a challenge, and we're kind of learning this, and have seen it in various cities that we're working with. So as you're aware, starting out with this project, we went through some right-of-way acquisition. After some right-of-way acquisition, we then had an environmental portion of this study, and then we went into this design phase. As part of that design, we've hired a design team that consisted of Consor, who's a consultant, and ESI Engineering, and they are primarily driving this design forward. The reason those consultants are hired to do this is because as a federally funded project, UDOT oversees and manages this project, right? And so we have to follow certain UDOT procedures, which includes some of their scheduling, also includes some of the software that they're using, the drafting software, all these things, and their procedures. And so as they've gone through this, we met originally, I think the kickoff meeting was August of last year. It was fall of last year, might have been end of summer, beginning of that, but we had this kickoff meeting and we had a schedule outlined. This project was originally supposed to start construction end of May, beginning of June of this year. When that schedule was outlined, Consor, ESI pretty clearly stated, hey, we think if things go right, we can make this work, and we can make this work. Unfortunately, there's a couple of pieces here that have led to that delay. One of those being right-of-way. And I want to discuss this because I think it's important to understand. When we went into this project, the assumption was, hey, I think we have the right-of-way that we need. And in this, there was a couple of pieces, a couple of main properties that said, hey, we didn't buy property here, but we think we can build within the existing right-of-way. That was the discussion. And there are going to have to be some design changes and some things that facilitate this. So in this process, we approached one of the property owners and just kind of informed them to say, hey, this is what this design looks like if we don't purchase any temporary construction easements from them. And what the temporary construction easement is, and this is kind of nuanced, but it basically says, hey, we can access your property and we can come on here. We're not building any permanent improvements on here that are the city's permanent improvements. We just need to be able to access this. On a typical city project, Dan works his magic. He goes up and he talks to the resident and just says, hey, can we come in? We're going to tie in the landscaping. We're going to fix your driveway. We'll make this work. Well, unfortunately, on a federal project, they don't like that. They like to make sure that the residents are protected, that they're taken care of, and there's some procedures that they follow. So in this process, we basically approached the property owner and said, hey, we can make this design work. We think we have the right-of-way, but if you'd be willing to sign a temporary construction easement, we think it'll be better. We think it will be better for you. We think your driveway transition will be cleaner. We think we're going to be able to have the road slightly higher so we don't have to fix as many utilities. I mean, there was just many different design constraints that would have been better if he was willing to do this. In this process, there was some pushback, right? And it was kind of said, and the pushback was, hey, I don't even think you have the right-of-way to do this. Not the temporary construction easement, but the right-of-way. We had 3 different surveyors look at this. It was, you know, we kept asking these questions like, hey, are we positive this is good? Ultimately, the UDOT PM project manager came to us and said, hey, why don't you reach out to Weber County and get some feedback from them, just because we had gotten enough pushback. Weber County came in and said, hey, a lot of the decision on how we had figured out what that right-of-way was some of the old Plain City Town plat maps, right? And that kind of identified a certain width on those roads that we had said that's what it is. Well, the county surveyor said, we went into a project up at Trappers Loop, the same approach. We believed these same things. We got sued and we lost that lawsuit. And so that opened up this idea that said, hey, we probably need to go buy some property from this property owner who had been fighting us. And we kind of said, maybe they are right. Maybe we do need to buy that about 8 to 10 feet behind the sidewalk right now to fit it into that right-of-way. But unfortunately, by doing that, it not only opened up that property, it opened up one more to the south, and all of a sudden, right-of-way was introduced into this project again. As we've gone through that, even up until December, January, it was like, okay, if we get through this right-of-way quickly, we've already talked to the property owner, I think they're amicable, I think we can get this through, we still can make the schedule work. But unfortunately, it's opened up a couple other properties along there just because of that assumption that, hey, we had a 66-foot right-of-way there. Well, moving forward, as we looked at that, there are some other things that UDOT prioritizes, and one of those is ADA ramps, right? And so when we were talking about the north portion of that project from 2200 all the way up to Kent's, we're not replacing the sidewalk, we're not replacing the curb and gutter, we're just gonna come in and rebuild the road section. So we're gonna take out the asphalt, we're gonna bring in some road base, we're gonna reconstruct that. Well, UDOT's process on that is if we're touching the road, we need to look at every pedestrian ramp and make sure that it's ADA compliant. What we've found in most of our cities, that a lot of those ramps, even newly constructed ramps from developments and whatnot, do not comply with those ADA standards. And so, anyway, there was a couple that got opened up there, and what's happened on these pedestrian ramps is we have to reconstruct some of these. And there's a few of those that in order to make those improvements, they're gonna cross that right-of-way. Some of that, like at the school, for example, they kind of have these radiuses that go into the right-of-way. In order to make those ADA ramps, we're gonna have to redo some of the concrete there. So we have to get a temporary construction easement. And so anyway, all this being said, we've ended up with about 4 more properties where we need to go buy 200 square feet in order to make this work. We'll pay those property owners on average a few $100 to make this work, but we'll go through the UDOT process to make that work, which doesn't happen overnight. What we're coming back to and want to explain is that what we've gathered from all of this is that although we think there's huge value in you continuing to go after these Wasatch Front Regional Council projects, when we follow their processes, they are way more expensive. Not on us personally, because we're getting funding from a federal entity, but a project that, I mean, we've often seen that those are 2.5 times the cost of what it would cost Public Works to hire a contractor to do. Also, schedules are just lengthy. If you want it to happen fast, don't get federal dollars. If you want to, but I get that this is a resource that the city has to continue to utilize because we have these major projects that we can't fund with the current budget, right? And so we have to kind of play by that game. The second part of that is, we think through this process, and I would think Dan would agree to this, that we have a better understanding on what that looks like. Unfortunately, in that right-of-way phase, the assumption now is buy more, buy more property, because it becomes harder the later in the game that you go to get it. And so we're approaching that. So on some of these other federally funded projects, we're working with Dan and some of these consultants to say, let's take a more conservative approach on that, because if it comes up in the design phase, unfortunately, it just adds 6 months plus to it. I mean, pretty quickly. And so, again, trying to take care of those things early. And then I think the other thing is as we play this game, we just want to make you aware, we have seen our cities, we've seen, peer cities, a lot of these are running into this. We do appreciate, from the holistic view, Wasatch Front Regional Council, Ben Woothridge, who kind of leads or oversees a lot of these funding projects, has been incredibly gracious and helpful that as we've run into some budget constraints, they recognize that this process is painful, and they have been more than willing to try to help us find more opportunities to get the funding to get there. They can't take away all the constraints, and what the federal process kind of threatens, and UDOT kind of is scared of, is that, hey, if we were to violate any of these processes, we could potentially forfeit the funds, even after a project's completed. And so we spend $5 million to complete this project. The threat, the overlying threat is, hey, if this isn't done according to the federal process, we got to give those funds back, right? I mean, I don't think we've seen that, but that's why UDOT is holding us to this requirement. The other thing we're seeing is that UDOT is very risk averse, right? I mean, they want to, they've been sued, they've been hit with more lawsuits, and so those standards are becoming more and more stringent. They used to allow, even on the right-of-way stuff, they used to allow what we would call a permit to enter and construct, which is basically a handshake with it on, put it on paper and say, hey, we can access your property and we can come on here and do some of this. They no longer allow that. That's just one example of how these requirements, the ADA, similar, they become more and more stringent on that. And so while, we understand the frustration and the concern, we know that there are residents, even residents here, that have been told this project was going to be done a year ago, 18 months ago, 2 years ago. We understand that concern. I just wanted to take the time to kind of come and explain how this process works, some of the pain points. Honestly, from our end, I think with some of these federal funded projects, we came in a little bit naive and maybe overly optimistic too that these things could happen fast. So we may have said hey, we think this can be done. And even these consultants that do it a lot felt yeah, I think we can get it done this year. I think that was a little bit naive on my part. But I do think as we move forward, I think we understand and have a better pulse on how we can help drive these projects for you, and get the right people involved so that we can have the success we need. I don't know, are there questions, concerns that I can help answer?
Have a quick comment. So right from the get-go, we hired our land acquisition guy that came highly recommended by multiple sources. And that turned into a complete, utter mess. I'm looking at somebody who knows exactly what I'm saying, that reached out to him multiple times with no responses. Dropped the ball on multiple properties. Somewhere along the way, he got another job and whatever, whatnot. I wouldn't return my phone calls. And it turned into a mess just on the initial land acquisition side that he said I'll have done in 3 to 4 months. So anyway, that's how this project kicked off. And this was 3 years ago.
At least, yeah.
And so, and still we're sitting with a couple that we're still trying to round up now, with it being more in the state's hands and outside of our purview. So anyway, go ahead, Adam.
I just had maybe a few questions and some comments. I'm well aware of the process with my line of work, and yes, the property acquisition, as you said, is always a critical path on these projects as you're dealing with federal funds and the state requirements. But you had made a comment that we're not doing anything. Are we putting curb and gutter on the open property there where the hayfield is?
Yes, there
Okay.
is. There is that
The
stretch.
way you worded that, it sounded like we
Oh,
weren't
you're
going
right.
to. So I was like, why are we not
Just
putting that alignment up?
Well, and the majority of that is existing curb and gutter. There's a few stretches of curb and gutter that will be replaced as well.
Right.
But just because of their failing, not necessarily a redesign of that. And then that stretch just north of the school, there'll be some storm drain inlet boxes and a stretch of curb and gutter and sidewalk that goes through there as well.
Right, I
Thank you.
figured. I just thought it was, I misunderstood or something, but I wanted to clarify. The other thing too is I'll just tell you what I've been hearing. I've had a lot of complaints. I've talked to the mayor and Dan about this over the last few years. A lot of them from my wife and a lot of them from a lot of the residents that are building new homes in that area. Because if you drive over there, there's a lot of houses being built over there. And with the school being there and the church, but mainly the school, getting to school, it is very dangerous with all the construction and things that are going on. And I think that the construction slowing down a little bit on 3600 will help things, but still there needs to be something done. There's a lot of residents reaching out to me personally wanting something done. And I've talked to Dan and the mayor a little bit about seeing what we can do as a city to try to mitigate those risks while we're waiting for this property acquisition. I don't know if we've landed on anything or not, but that's my 2 cents. Because, yeah, these projects do take a long time when you're talking federal dollars. I'll support that message for sure. But at the same time, we still need to make sure that's safe for all these kids going to school. Because now we're a whole other school year. And we promised that this school year it was going to be open, and it's still not. So we need to figure something out. And Dan's tired of hearing it, I know, but I'm going to keep pushing it.
Well, you said you were
we're
going
all
to start in spring of 2026?
Yes.
Is there a projected finish date? If you've all noticed, I'm really concerned about when things will be finished.
So we had, I think what they said was a September finish date. And I think part of that is typically when we bid these, they come in with a range for the contractor to say, hey, it's got to be done by a certain date. But hey, we think it's a 90 or 120 day process. Our next meeting is what they call like the plan specs and estimate. So that's where they'll pin down the dates as far as like how long they're going to give the contractor, when that drop dead has to be. But tentatively, the schedule is saying in September. So.
Well, I just appreciate what you've done. I am a landowner right there on 3600 in 1975, and you guys actually came to my house and spoke to my husband, and I do appreciate that a lot. So it's nice to know that you're doing what you can do.
And honestly, we are involved in this, and we're learning. We're really glad to have consultants that understand it better, but we've pulled our hair out with this as well. I mean, like I know the pain.
Really?
I've got a little more gray than I did when I started this, you know? And so, not that it's the same, we don't drive this every day, but we have spent quite a bit of time out here to try to help facilitate that. And I think clearly we will have these conversations. We talk with Dan regularly to see if there's some things we can do that aren't too cost prohibitive to mitigate some of this stuff, right? I think that will be some of that discussion to say what can and can't be done in the near term to help. Dan's been very proactive in approaching us on these things, and even ideas to say like, hey, could we do this? Could we do this? And it is challenging, but we've appreciated his support as well. He's been incredible to work with. So
I do have one more question. You mentioned it, but just to clarify, is the property acquisition, it sounds like we have a few, some that we need to purchase, but also some temporary construction easements. Are the property owners, are they working with us? Are they ignoring us? Is that gonna be something that'll push us even further past spring if they're not willing to negotiate?
potentially, I think some of those critical ones we've had those discussions. I think some of the temporary construction easements like the school district, honestly, I think Kent's will be one. Those have not necessarily been approached, have just been recently, identified fairly recently. But I think on the surface, everybody seems amicable and willing. I think we've approached most, but also what will happen is once, the UDOT surveyor or the consultant surveyor that will come in, prepare a deed or an easement, they'll then give it to an acquisition agent, that the acquisition agent then will go get an appraisal. The appraisal will come in. And so, I'm optimistic, but I do think that's a concern, right? I think it's like when that dollar amount comes back on the appraisal, is everybody is willing to sign that. I think we've tried to do some of that PR work up front to try to get in front of it, and communicate that. I know the three that were buying real property have been approached and have had discussions with that, and they seem amicable about that, so.
I have a question for Dan, if you could. So something that stuck out was the ADA compliance on the sidewalks. When developers are building the sidewalks, are we checking for ADA compliance before we sign off?
When they put in the sidewalk,
It's
yeah,
not the states.
make sure that it's up to standard, but with the new ADA compliance,
Everything's changed.
what UDOT's requiring is the flat surface up top to where you have a landing to go out on before it goes out to the sidewalk.
And,
So,
and a lot of these are developments that have been here for 15, 20 years maybe. And so that stringent, like that, people watching it hadn't been quite as big a deal. For whatever reason, in the last 5 years, this has become a hot topic. The city's challenge is we have how much sidewalk in the city, and gradually trying to replace those, but the budget to be able to do that is tricky, right? And so it's like, how many can you do in a year? Not as many as everybody would like.
Yeah.
I would say from the legality of it, what we've kind of seen generally is as long as there's an approach there to say like, this is how we're going to try to get to all these, that provides some coverage for a city too, as opposed to just saying like, I don't know what to do. I think if you budget some, not all, but some to address those over time, I think that's helpful, and have a plan to say, yeah, we're gonna get there, that we don't have to, it might take 20 years, but to have a plan is helpful.
Well, and like you said before, Jory, the standard for ADA ramps on these sidewalks in my 20-year career has probably changed more than any other standard. It changes all the time, and yeah, you put one in and the next day UDOT's tearing it out because it's not right. So I understand that.
It's just the question is, as we're checking off new developments, are we checking, do they meet the standards of today as we're signing off?
Yeah.
Is that something we're checking?
I do believe it's in our standards.
Okay.
But, you look at some radiuses that I was seeing here last month, and then I question these guys because it's on a state road, right up on 1926. And, they just did a nice new handicap approach and stuff. It's not to the standard that they're gonna hold us to. I don't know, but anyways,
Okay.
so.
It's a moving marker, moving goalpost. Got it?
That's our general feel on these federal projects. We do think that they can be a valuable asset. I think sometimes, even as engineers, we've been overly optimistic, like, yeah, let's get this, we can do it, we can get it done. And unfortunately, seemingly small obstacles tend to add a great length to the schedule. It just seems like, why did that take so long to solve that problem? And I'm sure that you guys sit here and think it's March, why can't we can get this going? And we say, hey, the design's close, but that just wanted to outline it so that you could understand kind of what we're going through.
Thank you, good sirs.
Thank you.
You got off easy. You were all nervous the other day. Well, now, yeah. I swear you said your name was Jory. I still messed it up. Have a great night. Thanks. And sorry I told you that you were first on the agenda and you're actually second. That was rude of me. Good. All right. All right. Ordinance to rezone AJS investment property A1 to 18.5. This is the piece that we just.
We got
What?
conditional final approval. of
Oh,
Diamond
goodness.
D.
I checked it off too. I'm just trying to speed along. I see all the county, or the planning commission members here, and I'm just trying to cruise. Conditional final approval of Diamond E Phase 2. Dan, how you feeling about this one?
Really good. Other than no streetlights still at this point. But they have their money in the escrow, and I think at that point, we'll just keep it in there, and, along with the 10% and tell Rocky Mountain Power. I did sign the work order a month ago, and so it's in the process.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, any questions?
Just so everybody's aware, Dan's referring to Rocky Mountain Power being behind on installing street lights. So we have to approve it without the street lights being installed.
Over a year out. Yeah, they lost their appraisal, their appraiser that went around to the projects and said this is how much it's gonna cost to install the lights. They haven't had one for over a year. So it pushed everything back. Now they do have one, but he's gotta do all these
Backlog.
subdivisions.
He's a little bit behind.
Yeah.
All right, council, what do you say?
I move to approve conditional final approval of Diamond E Phase 2.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll go to the rezone from A1 to 18.5s. This is the piece that we annexed in a few meetings ago. And we told him to go ahead and take his chances, and if the state denied his annexation, then he might have to come back and see us again. But he was good with that, and so that's all this is. It does conform with our future land use map, so what say ye?
I will make a motion. It's an ordinance. What's the ordinance number? 2025-05? 05 to rezone AJS investment property from A1, zone 18.5, from A1 to 18.5.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good deal. Done deal. Business licenses. We
We have a few, couple. A few.
They worth reading? Yeah, let's read them. Let's see, we got some renewals, RJ Analytical, Dollar Tree, Clark Restaurant Unlimited, and then Home Occupations, Talk to Me Crisis Communications, and Precision Lighting. How about a motion?
There's a new
Oh, there is a new one.
Celestial Recycling.
Yeah, there we go.
I will make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, should we pay the bills?
I will make a motion to approve the bills for February 19th through February 28th, 2025.
Second?
Roll call.
Yes.
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 Great, thank you. Council reports. Councilman Favero.
I have nothing to report.
Councilwoman Wilson. Councilwoman Bill.
Nothing to report.
Councilman Jenkins.
Nothing to report.
All right. I have just something to bring up. First, I need to excuse Councilman Panunzio. He did call me about a half hour before the meeting and got called out for work. So, excuse him tonight. In discussion, in my comments last week, I brought up Stacy Dixon and her thoughts on putting something together. And one thing that we have let die, and mostly I think we kind of let it die because RAMP wasn't going to help us out because they don't want another North Ogden amphitheater issue. But I would really like to get this amphitheater thing back in the front of our minds. I think it would be a great, Jared did a phenomenal job doing the design and, provided his architectural experience and we really put together a nice presentation for that. And I would like to get that back on the forefront of our minds as we go into budget season. I'd like to see that get done. I do know that with Peterson's changing ownership, they were gonna, I can't remember if they were supplying the material or the labor, one or the other. But I know that that's gonna be gone. The new owners aren't doing anything that was promised before. So, but anyway, I would really like to get that back on the talking block.
Did you
And-
guys talk about a location?
Mm-hmm. So the location that we've talked about is one of two, right down here on the south end of the football field.
And then where do you relocate the football fields?
We're not gonna have to. That won't interfere with there'll still be plenty of buffer behind the end zone. We could shift the football field a little bit to the north, but it wouldn't interfere with it. Or we could take the corner over here, kind of where the home run fence for this south field curls back. We could set it back in that corner. So there's a couple options, but I think it was actually voted on to have it up here on this end.
Yep, on the south end of the park.
So, that can be changed, but anyway, I'd like to get that kind of back on the burner if there's interest with the council and maybe move forward with some fundraising and stuff like that.
Why did it not get built? Sorry, I don't know.
Ramp denied us.
Oh, okay.
North Ogden, I'm sure you're very well aware with the lawsuits and everything that's happened up there.
Yeah.
That was their main reason for denying us, and that was gonna be a good chunk of it.
Yeah.
And so, I think our estimated cost was $750,000, somewhere around there, maybe 8, if I remember right. And we were asking for, I think, half from RAMP.
Ramp.
And there was still kind of arguments about permanent versus movable.
Yeah, there was some discussion.
Well, we voted on permanent, then there was some discussion afterwards.
Yeah, so the
Permanent.
location and the actual,
Execution.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when you say voted on the location, this body or just the,
the
city
council
council
did vote
did
on
vote on
the
it.
location. Like I said, that can be revisited
right, it's all new now.
if we come up with a better location or something, but it's gotta be in a big open area like this. We talked about over at the square, but we don't own the square.
And we need more parking.
We'd have to, and no parking, so, this is kind of our baby, but,
There's logistical issues that need to be,
yeah, there's quite a bit to go through, and possibly shrinking the size of it to bring it down into a better budget number. Okay, so that's all I really had on my reports. With that, we just need one more motion.
So moved.
Do we,
second,
don't we
All
have
in
to make
favor?
wait,
we gotta make a motion to go into another meeting, right?
No.
Oh.
Need a motion for a work meeting?
Okay,
We just close this meeting.
okay.
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Good deal. Meeting adjourned. All right, we'll take a 5-minute break to get set up and
Where's the meeting gonna be here?
Yeah, let's do it right here.
I hope you didn't have a report. How's everything? Did you see the no skin on his nose? I'm like, oh, my hell.
I didn't ask him about that. What was that all about?
They went to see Dove in the pool, hit his nose right on the bottom of the. I'm like, how did you hit this and not? Yeah, I don't know.
That's funny.
He's quite the character.
He's what?
He is such a character.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking because he was telling us about Reg and I forget his other son's name. We're like, said, just go to your room, just hang out for a bit. And they were like,
Oh my
backyard
gosh.
and in the front door. And
Oh. Okay. So yes. Okay. So Hayes fell off the bar stool. He was standing on the bar stool. Okay. Fell off. Clunked his head. So Mikkel's like, we need to take him probably to the hospital. So that was like on Tuesday. Well, on Sunday, Tayson and Mikkel were in their room watching TV, thinking that the next
So for example,
next thing they know, Reg had kicked up.
if there's ever an issue, we understand it's like that.
What? And then said you can't do that. The next day they got one of those little cars, like a Hot Wheel car, and pushed it to the fence and hopped over into the neighbor's fence. I am like, you guys have got to get control of your kids. They're crazy.
wild.
It's, oh my gosh. And they're such good kids, you know?
Yeah,
But they are wild.
they are, that's for sure. Hey, thank you. How's it going, man?
Good, how are you doing?
Good. Good to see you. Pretty good, man.
Okay, this is different.
Busy, just like everybody else, though.
I was like, your turn, go.
Use the bathroom. I hate the setup like this because it's like,
I feel like I'm
we like set our chairs over.
I hadn't lost my hair.
With you on there, yeah.
Exactly. I hate the setup.
Good, how are you doing?
Great.
No, I just sat on the inside.
Thank
Oh,
you.
yeah. We got
Not that I didn't want to sit by you. Good. Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
We'll see. I've been pressured into it for years now, and I finally was like, you know, if I'm gonna do it, now's the time to do it, and good for playing football, especially. Exactly, that's where I'm.
Stole my.
Man, I get it. Well, you take my spot and you get it.
We didn't. Okay.
Put more detail.
I see what this is. I was gonna say, we didn't adopt 22, did we? Yeah, okay, that's me.
Yeah. I hear it, man.
Go on.
Yeah, it
That's what
sucks.
More.
That's what I thought at the
I go into
beginning.
two of them.
Oh,
I gotta go to Clearfields
Yeah,
every
you do.
Yeah.
we got something tomorrow. I'm not gonna be. Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I didn't answer.
That's what I thought, man.
Use her. I am like trying to do
Did you? Didn't you?
Oh, perfect, thank
I love the idea. Can we
oh,
levy
it's like so
legally? Can we do that? So we can designate the amount.
4 days in the week.
I want to suggest a little
Yeah.
less.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
24?
Good
That's
for
perfect.
her. You're really good for her.
No, he was talking to me about.
16-year-old. I was gonna say, I think your daughter is it?
Primary dwelling first.
Maybe Gracie? My son's age.
She'll decide.
Pretty sure I
Better
have
keep that little kid of yours on 2 wheels. Little boy.
You got both of us.
Coming down the road and I see him take up an older grandma and grandpa sideways.
If you're ever done with it.
Now it's on.
Yeah, you need to turn that down.
Great idea. 6-year-old?
He's gonna be,
Ripping.
he's gonna be getting his back straightened up again.
That's the only one that doesn't have.
Oh, he's the
I
only one
move
that
it,
Oh,
it turns
well,
off.
he might have pins and plates in
Just
his
a
back.
list of
Oh,
the
thank you.
thingies that they
Oh, man, he's so
offer.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Whoa.
It's a list of the.
All right, let's do this in a little bit. All right. Well, hey, thanks everybody for coming. I think we got everybody except for Luigi.
Luigi, we're missing.
Oh, Dustin had to leave? Ah, dang him. All right, so I think we're getting pretty close to opening up the general plan. We're still waiting on the grant, hear back on that, but we're getting there. And it's been brought up that we all probably ought to figure out how far apart we are or how close we are on what we see the future of Plain City and how we kind of proceed with whether it's ordinances or growth or whatnot, right? So I want to go around the room, and this is going to take more than one meeting, just so you're all aware. I don't know how long you guys want to stay tonight, but 10 o'clock might be a little late.
As long as I can call you at 3.
9 o'clock's a little late, Mr. Mayor.
9 o'clock's late? All right.
For me?
Especially when he was referring to AM.
Yeah.
Okay. It's gonna be an all-nighter, huh?
Oh, we could do it. We can hammer it all out in one sitting. All right. So, I mean, that's really what this is about, is just, you know, we've got a few larger areas. One in particular is looking to go. I mean, it'll go slowly if it stays the way ownership-wise that they've told me they kind of want to stay. But I don't know. I have my vision. I have my views. I'm a country kid. I love the fact that when I ran for mayor, I knocked on a door just up here east of the elementary school. And the guy answered the door. And I told him who I was and what I was doing. He goes, "Let me tell you a quick story." He says, "I worked my whole life to be able to live in Plain City." He said, "I always knew I was going to live in Plain City. I was hoping it was sooner, but I finally made it." So he moved out here just a few years before he retired from the sheriff's department, and he loves his little corner and what he's got there. And that was a message that he just relayed to me, was Plain City's always been a desired place to live. I don't want to lose that at all. How it builds out, how it goes, and it stays that way, that it is a desired place to live. It keeps our crime rates down. It keeps a great, quiet place to live. Obviously, it will get busier as main roads, such as the freeway deal out there, whatever they're going to call it, when that ties around through the city, that'll create difference in a couple ways, right? Some can be good, some can be bad, but it'll give us more of a commercial district, I think, because not only is Plain City going to grow, but we know what the county commissioners are doing out west anyway. And it is all about density and growth. And so, what's that? And up the street as well, yeah. And so
John, what do you know about that? What do you know about, I thought it was supposed to be called Legacy, but I know it's changing. What do you know as far as what west is it?
So, it'll be west of 5900, about 6100 west maybe, give or take.
And then come up
And it's gonna, yeah, it'll come up and then it'll angle.
and go off and then
They're planning an on-off ramp it turns into 2050 down there at the bottom.
right, okay.
The bottom, sorry.
I was with you.
Yeah, thank you. But it turns to 2050, so there's a planned on and off ramp for that road, right? Which would be straight down 2200.
Right.
Just the way it weaves a little bit. So we know that's gonna be kind of commercial, and, I mean, we would be crazy not to take advantage of an off-ramp, right?
Right.
I mean, we've never had that luxury of what Far West has up on that corner. That's just crazy. Some light industrial, we don't wanna get into the heavy industrial stuff, but some light industrial and commercial. And I think we can open that up even more, to be honest. I think, I mean, we look at what Kent's brought into our budget. When I thanked him for being a phenomenal tax contributor, that's no joke, right? Like, it's put cushion in our budget that we didn't expect. I think my first year as mayor, our sales tax revenue was somewhere around $400,000 or $500,000. This year we're looking at 1.3. And so it's just, and there was a big jump. It doubled one year, and I think that was my third year in office. Jumped right up to like 900,000. And so it's just, those are the things that are gonna sustain cities long-term. I know there's objections to that, and there's reasons behind that, but that is something we definitely need to look at and really think about putting more on the map when it comes to that West Weaver corridor. But as for residential, I'm not seeing that our kids are gonna, most of them aren't gonna work here. Everybody's always still gonna travel out unless this little industrial type commercial area that we have. I mean, I can see some jobs there, but I can't see, you know, a huge Ogden, you know, type Boyer Park there. But I do see something. So there will be some job opportunity, but I think 90% of the people are still gonna go east. Hit the freeway and go somewhere to work. We're just tucked in this little corner, and I just don't see that much of a growth in commercial. So how do we see the residential side grow out? How do I see it? I've talked to Shauna when she was planning chair about some different ideas on some housing ideas and stuff like that, and how do we incorporate some of that and allow a little bit to start. There's no such thing as affordability. The ones they're building up there, the cookie cutter homes on 2600, they start at $360,000. And that's with linoleum, Formica tops, and the cheapest carpet they can find, right? Oh, are they sharing driveways? Oh, yeah.
And if you look at the houses facing north, there's no windows on the south side of the house.
And that's
None.
almost a $400,000 home.
None.
Yeah.
With
it's-
no sunlight in the house.
So it starts at 360 as a plain Jane type of thing, right? And I don't know what their profit margin is. It doesn't matter, right? That's for the industry to work itself out, right? And that's not what I'm saying I want to see is that small. I think those are basically on 3,000 square feet. But I do see a need for some smaller stuff. Shauna and I talked about a twin home, where they, huh? We discussed it. I didn't say we all agreed, but we discussed it. And you told me your first home was a twin home. No. Or you lived in one? No, I've never lived in one. You told me that. Oh, okay. Dang it. I almost had you.
But I know you've talked about twin homes with me a little bit. What is your
Definition?
Well, I know what your definition is. I guess, why do you think they're beneficial versus just a small, nice little house on a smaller lot?
So I look at the duplex that was built down here, I don't know what the road is, probably 4400 west just in Pioneer Village there, just around the corner from you.
Yeah, it's
And
quite
it is
the
a nice-looking home.
Yeah, it's quite the eyesore. Go drive by it.
Well, okay, the residence part, but the building itself is a nice building.
Buildings is only as nice as the people that live in it.
Okay, truth. So here's my point of that, right? You take a duplex, you put it on, we make our lots to where it's not you're not buying a full quarter, because now we can only do it on a half-acre lot with 150 feet of frontage, right? That's not gonna work. Obviously, the owner is not doing his job in keeping his place up, right? Maybe put that on the hit list, Dan.
Isn't there one right on 36?
Yeah, there's one right on the corner, and it's not a bad-looking place. You put a fence down the middle, and you sell those as two different homes, right? They just share a wall. It's a duplex that you now can sell each side to where, because my whole thing is, and now you hear it down in the legislature, and I've said it for the last 3 years, is I want to promote home ownership. Rentals are great. You got to have some rentals. But home ownership is where the wealth is created, and the youth, the younger couples, and I saw a statistic today that most first-time home buyers are in their low 30s. Not here. This is a nationwide statistic. But most of them are in their low 30s. Obviously, it's not here, but I don't know. Just to be able to promote home ownership that's my idea. Is to be able to provide things for kids to buy.
But to Adam's point, again, why not just two houses?
Well, that's
with
from my standpoint on that, Mayor, and I think
Can.
you and I have talked, like, for me, well, my first home was a just under a quarter-acre lot, nice little old brick home. It was a beautiful home. I'd still be there if I could have put the shop in the back. Just a nice little home. We loved it. We miss it. But I personally, and I think a lot of people would say this, I want to be separated by at least 5 feet of grass or something. I don't want a wall separating, because if you've ever lived in an apartment or a duplex or anything, you smell what the neighbor's cooking, everything that goes on, you can hear them. To me, I don't think that you're going to buy that as an ownership. Now, as a rental investment, sure, I'm not sure that we want rentals all over our city.
No.
Because you think apartments are bad. So are they, right? It's just on a smaller scale, or not as dense. But I don't know. That's why I've always been the quarter acre. But that's what I'm used to with our first home, and my wife and I, we loved it. And a lot of these younger couples that I've talked to, they don't really want big lots, but the ones that do, give them the option, right? Have a little mixed use there, but I don't know. That's my 2 cents on duplexes.
And Mr. Mayor, also, if you look at the data from our housing report, moderate income housing report we did, it's pretty staggering. You know, the demographics that are shown. I mean, from ages 20 to 30, it drops significantly down as to our population, you know, the members of our population.
Mm-hmm.
It's
You
because
know what?
yeah, tell that to my
A lot of it
Come on,
is.
kid.
And they don't want to be responsible.
Right. But they also don't have the means if you know.
Right.
And then also the other end of that spectrum is the age of 70, you know, that population is seeing a decrease too.
I think we've addressed the senior.
And I think we have.
We'll have 3 here pretty soon.
Yeah, and I think that is going to taking steps for that. I think we need to focus maybe on that other age demographic. I mean, and my heart's on that age demographic. All my kids are in there, and I've seen it. I mean, 2 of my daughters have moved out to an apartment next to the hospital because they work there, but that's what they could afford. And they're paying a mortgage, both of them, they're paying a rent that is almost double my mortgage on my house that I bought 18 years ago. So, I mean, that's something I think we should keep in mind as we go with you know, through this general plan.
But my only fear is what is it going to take to get there?
Right.
Right?
We need to figure that out.
For us to address that young 20 to 30 demographic, what's it going to take us to get there? And there's only one answer, in my opinion, and it's small.
It is.
It's small lots and small homes.
And
My
Define
2
small.
cents on that is is smaller lots doesn't mean more affordability.
Doesn't.
I can build a 5,000 square foot home on a quarter acre lot just as easy I can at a third acre.
Yeah, but the property's still more expensive.
Yeah, but if I'm paying $225 a square foot and I knock 1,000 square feet off my home, there's your making up the money for your property right there.
And
The biggest problem is these developers, if we give them the opportunity to build smaller
Yeah.
lots, they're gonna build
Build
big
big
homes on small
smaller
lots.
lots.
Unless we limit the square footage that they can build on those lots, we're gonna be in the same predicament, and now we've got twice as many, our population's growing, and everybody knows that our tax base, our population, the tax base is not keeping up with the infrastructure repairs.
That's another factor is,
You got all these people that are wearing and tearing on the roads, but our taxes are gonna end up
Right.
going up.
Yeah.
you get developers that come in and, you know, like we saw out at Christensen's, you know, what was proposed, yeah, we'll look into doing some apartments, but the scale that they did this, the quantity of apartments that they did just was something that we couldn't swallow infrastructure-wise at all.
The only one that benefits is the developer.
Yes.
Yep.
That's the only one, by smaller lot. Now, I'm not saying everybody needs a 5-acre lot.
No,
People don't wanna take care of 5-acre
No.
lots. But we also need to be responsible if we have
Right.
1/8 acre lots. We gotta understand that for every house, you got 2 or 3 cars.
Yep.
For every car, you have the wear and tear on the roads. Now, you have the wear and tear on the sewer. Something's gotta keep up cost-wise to keep up with the infrastructure
Double-edged sword.
that's deteriorating. And it's not gonna happen by housing. More houses is not gonna
Well,
build that.
the sewer should take care of itself if we're smart as a city council and planning, because you charge the fees that support the sewer system, and the whole United States is in trouble there because we don't charge enough. But, and the roads, I think we need to be careful just blaming it on wear and tear. It's not just wear and tear. If you're in the industry, it's more time than it is vehicle traffic, unless we're talking freeways with semis and a lot of heavy loads. But, yeah, I can't remember the other point I was gonna make about, I don't care how you slice it, smaller lots, smaller homes is gonna be more affordable than a small lot and a big house and all that. And I don't think, I think we absolutely can limit that. Why can't we limit I don't know what small lot even means to everybody, but let's say
Yeah.
smaller than what we're doing or whatever, I'm assuming. We can limit the size of the house being built. And the thing that, I talk about this quite a bit, the one phrase that I think's really got into a lot of people's heads is my starter home. What does that even mean? I mean, to me, that says I'm not
Been
good
my
enough to
starter
live in
home.
that little old house anymore. I'd love to live in that.
35 years. We bought our house, and I'm still there.
Right, that's exactly my point. That's good enough, why not?
Well, and,
We've ruined it by saying starter home.
Right.
yeah, what's a
starter
starter
home.
home?
We also
Should just
need
be
to
your
look
home.
at- We only have so many exits to this city. I don't know if anybody's drove up Center Street lately around 5, 6 o'clock.
Oh,
I avoid.
School's over with.
like the plague.
What's all that traffic? And now Christensen's gonna bring in how many more homes?
1,000.
If we allow Jackson's to do what they wanna do, now you've got either 4,000 or Center Street. We ain't gonna be able to get out of this city.
No.
It's getting to the point where it doesn't matter how much land we have available inside this city, we have to have egress, we gotta have ways to get in and get out of the city.
Well, and that's another point too. I believe every outlet in our city has a canal on it.
Has a bridge.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we have to take that in consideration as well if a disaster does happen.
Yep.
You know, there is the possibility that our city could be
Landlocked.
locked off.
Absolutely.
We have our moat.
Yep.
Yeah, which, maybe some people want that, but
If we could build it now, it'd be nice.
But no, I agree. What is your definition of a small lot, Shauna?
Well, how did the west part of that neighborhood, did it sell pretty well? Because we limited, they came in and wanted that overlay. It's smaller homes, because we restricted it by setbacks. So they should be smaller homes on smaller lots. I'm just really hesitant to, beyond developments that are specifically set up to be that way, I'm hesitant to lower our frontage
I don't argue that. Using our overlays in the areas that we've had where they're adjacent to trails or open space, right?
I think we need to look at how restrictive that is, though, and maybe there's a way to open it up to a few more areas. Maybe we do it in our general plan update, that we have some zones that we're okay with them going in there, so let's create the zone for it. I don't know, I think it's pretty restrictive right now where they.
Okay, so what's a small lot size for you?
Well, for me, a quarter acre is small, so.
Okay, Blake?
I grew up in a home up in East Ogden, and our lot was probably about 6,000 square foot. Although I didn't have an elementary school nearby I could go over and play at.
Yeah.
But that's why we enjoy our acre lot. And I continually have people stopping by asking, where can I buy horse property?
Yeah.
They want to buy my property.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is definite demand for that.
There's a demand, yeah.
I mean, 3 or 4 times a year I can kind of count on.
Okay,
I started
so-
with a third acre,
Yeah.
but because of what we've done and added on, to our starter home twice, we're up to, I think, about a half acre, but the third acre wasn't bad, but I lived next to a field for 30 years. It was sufficient.
I have 30.
Okay, so tell me what a small lot is for you.
6,000 square feet to 7.
Yeah.
That's where actually I lived while we were building.
Yeah.
My dad's apartment. One of those apartments. My sister, she lived in
7 is pretty small.
but I agree. And then my grandmother lived in another one that. Smaller than 50. And so, but you're right. We'd hear noises.
Oh, yeah.
So what would you define a small lot as?
For Plain City, we've already got that one ordinance in there, that's for 7,000.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't go much more than that.
Yeah. Jared?
I was gonna say 1/6 of an acre or 7,500 square feet.
Adam?
Probably the same as Jared there. But again, I think quarter acre lots are a nice little lot. They're nice. just
Oh, I do too,
usable,
for sure.
affordable. I agree with Josh. I mean, let's not allow them to build a mansion so there's like no grass around it, but.
And it'd be good to limit the quantity that we build, of
Because
that.
if you do that, then yeah, it does drive the price of it up for.
And not to mention, when we're talking these 6,000, 7,000 square foot lots, our population is growing so rapidly, and we have all these 7,000 square foot lots. Where are the kids gonna play?
Yeah.
How many kids do we now
Well,
have
so
out in the middle of
with
the
our
road,
overlay,
playing out in the middle of the road because they don't have a backyard, they don't have a front yard, they don't
my
have a
mom
side
told me
yard.
to play in the road.
Yeah, but your mom didn't love you as much as my mom loved.
So, but no,
Come
with
back
the
when the sun
overlay, when
goes
we
down.
use the overlay, they have to either give up 33% of the property or in like kind in amenities, right?
But then who pays to take care of the amenities?
Well, that becomes the city park.
So, but if we have a park on every corner
We don't want a park on every corner.
to
Well,
allow
I
smaller
think-
lots, it's just, once again, it's,
Well, and if you read the overlay, you'll see that it's attached to our trail system, right? So you can see trails on here a little bit, or our future open green space. So right now, talking to a developer about one down by the landfill. We've got a buffer all the way around the sewer plant and the landfill of green space or open space, right? So if we want to keep that buffer, we're going to have to allow him the overlay. Otherwise, he's just going to go in and build 18.5 homes all the way across it, right?
Yeah.
So can we do a portion of that? Can we say, of the 80 acres, you can do 20 acres, right? And then we take 6, right? Like, there's tons of options that we have. We don't have to throw the whole 80 acres under that overlay.
No, we can
But-
throw a portion of it, though.
Yeah,
well, and I think in our general plan that we have now, I believe there's 3 lots per acre. I can't remember what zone it is, but it requires 3 lots per acre. Now, if you take a 10-acre subdivision or development, and they want to build them smaller lots under the overlay and turn in some green space, at that point, we're still maintaining the 3 lots per acre for that development.
Sure.
You know, and at that point, I don't mind the smaller lots there. It's not that I'm against smaller lots. I'm against the amount of smaller lots to where, like I say, we increase the population and now.
Well, and that's why we limited it. And you were chair, right? And you and I had a lot of conversations on how do we control this to where.
Kids do we have?
Huh?
How many kids do we all have?
Way more
There's
than I
girls,
planned.
people.
Well, yeah,
I mean-
but that's what we done when we put
Right.
that overlay together, was we talked about where we would do this in order to get our trail system in, to get our regional parks that we've got planned, right? Like, that's the stuff we've talked about, and so I'm all for using those in that area to provide some of this smaller lot, smaller home. And I do think we should add square footage size on those homes. Just to keep those costs down. And it's an overlay. We can control anything in an overlay.
That's the one thing I did want to talk about, if we're gonna, Josh kind of brought up, Mayor, you've been talking about it, is our planning of our parks and our trails and everything. To me, some of these development agreements that have came in, Steel Creek, we've talked a lot about, and others, that we're just popping all these things in there because we feel like they owe us something because we're doing a development agreement, which is fine if we really want it. Well, Steel Creek, and I know a lot of us weren't even here when all that was approved.
None of
the
us were
first
here.
go-around.
That was, yeah.
None
that
of
was-
us were here.
Oh, but.
Any of us.
Which it doesn't really matter. My point to that, I'm not here to point to the past or to blame somebody else. That's not what I'm saying, but we're kind of doing the same thing by just popping all these things in just because we think we want it. We need to have a plan, to your point, like, let's make sure we have the parks and everything where we want them and how big we need them for the growth. Because to have a bunch of little pocket parks everywhere, they're a nightmare to maintain, and they're not really big enough to do anything on. Now, if it's what's the one we just approved that has their own private little area, that's up to them, I guess. But for the city, we should plan a lot better and make sure that we're not just popping them in wherever just because something comes around. I think we need to plan better there and use our park impact fees and whatever else to help us get there. But
Well, that's what happened with the Still Creek Park. Initially, their design and concept came in, and I was chair at that time, is they had little open spots all over the place, open space. So I asked them just to go back and reevaluate that, see if we can consolidate it into a park. Instead of having.
Instead of a little space.
Little open
Yeah.
space spot like that. So they ended up doing that, came back again, presented that. I said, well, park's not doing any good if we don't have restrooms and parking. Actually, I thought from that meeting, I thought they was gonna walk. They actually came back.
They
Dang
kept
it.
coming.
You tried to get rid of them, huh?
well, and with that one, it's
So, yeah, I mean, my point of this meeting is, let's find out where we have common ground, right? Because there will have to be ordinance changes and overlay changes done when we redo this or the land use map, right? So that we know what to focus on when we go through and do this, so that we're not just willy-nilly something together and picking this spot and what have you.
Well, with his example, and I'll say this just so I understand what I'm trying to say. Let's say we didn't really want that park, but we felt like we needed something. In my eyes, it would be better to take the impact fees, whether it doesn't really matter, $1 or 10 million, and put it towards a nice, beautiful park. We just talked about an
Sure.
amphitheater. Not sure if we want one or not, but we just talked about it. Well, bam, that pays for it. To an amenity that we want and we've planned for, not just one that we've thrown in because some developer came in with a development agreement.
Yeah, I
Let them
wanna do
pay the
that.
impact fees and put it where we want it. Let's plan for it.
Well, and I think.
Good idea.
And I think in our overlay, it states, it doesn't have to be amenities on that property, it's just amenities, period.
And we get to kind of decide what
Yeah.
Yeah, and we don't approve it. So, to your point, we can do that with any of these, right? It doesn't have to be specific to that property. We can take it and do whatever. It can be in like money, it can be, if they wanna go and build it, whatever it is, so.
something I hear a lot from residents
We did a survey,
Mm-hmm,
The,
yes.
That frog
Usable
one?
parks.
Usable
Well,
part.
Usable parks.
yeah.
the national folks from the Parks and Rec Association, and I used to go to the meetings back when I was in that realm. Their logic is a quarter acre within every door, basically. There should be some type of an open space. Whether or not you fall out, a lot of cities, if you start looking, it's pretty close. Or a certain amount of acreage per resident or whatever, right? They have different matrix, but those are the kind of things we need to look at and make sure we're following as we do have growth, because we're gonna have growth. I was just teasing, we all have kids. So it's inevitable, but we want to make sure we're planning for it, and it'll be good. Doesn't mean
All right, Josh, so what's a small lot to you?
Honestly, quarter acre lot would be a small lot to me.
That's me.
I just,
Jed?
I agree, quarter acre, third, I mean, it's good, but it's pushing, I'd rather see quarter acre myself.
Okay.
Yeah, you skipped.
Oh, I did skip Rob. I just thought you were the attorney.
I was
Brandon?
like, thought that was Brandon, and I looked up and I'm
Over
like,
there, too.
that's Rob.
Sorry, Rob.
I think for, yeah, the look and feel of this city, I think
Quarter.
Rachel?
It's hard for me to understand because I grew up on military bases and we built up. So I grew up in like a double wide. I know. I know.
No, we don't want to go up.
I grew up in cement buildings, so
Ladder trucks.
We may need one with the industrial,
I'd probably say quarter acre.
way down the road.
Definitely.
It is small for me.
That's the smallest I would like to see, but I know that we've done different. but
Talking
Quarter acre is
25 years from now.
small to me.
Would that be overall, or would that be in the overlays? Quarter would be your
Lowest.
bottom as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
and that's where I'm also at. I think as far as the RE15s that we have right now, as far as our zoning, is plenty small. The quarter acre lot for me would be in the overlay zone.
Do you want me to tell you what the Utah, how Utah legislature?
No, we don't want to talk
I
about
do.
No.
We are not talking about the legislature today.
Let's go ahead and hear
Well-
it real quick.
But
Is this the one that they just killed?
No, I don't think so.
That was 7 lots to the acre or something like that.
It's 5,400 square feet.
Yeah.
5,400 square.
So I'll be honest, I mean, I've been very staunch for years and years, right? I look at I think there's some lots up there in Nielsen Homes in that West Park that are, I think, 8,000 or 9,000. A 10,000 in Plain City is considered a quarter acre, right? It's just
Yeah.
shy,
How
but on
much?
paper, 10,000.
10,000, yeah.
But I look at the 8,000s that are up there, there's still a backyard to go play catch in. Because that's one of my big things, right, is I would have hated to have my kid come and say, Dad, let's go play ball, and have to jump in the truck and go, right?
Exactly.
I've just always loved walking in the backyard and playing with Dad, or vice versa, me and my son, right?
I understand that.
And you've got a soccer field in your backyard, right? So,
Mine's a 15.
To go to the school.
yeah.
Cats are hitting the ball over the fence.
Yep. Yeah, and so
And it'd be good to have.
that's just something that I look at those 8,000s and it's like, okay, they still have room. Like, I've been to a couple of those houses and they've got their hot tub and they've got a nice back patio and they've still got, some plenty of grass in the back to do whatever. And so,
I would rather have more availability for an overlay with that type of lot than I would to put more quarter acres in Plain City.
I think it'd be good to have like a park within walking distance of smaller lots as well. I mean, I live just a half block away from here. When my kids got older and they kept hitting baseballs into the house and over the roof, or in the neighbor's yard, we just walk down here and,
yeah, sit
and-
on the corner and swing the bat.
Right, and then great memories. And I think that would be something maybe to think about too, is where we put these. I think we need to also consider where we put our parks, because, I don't know, walking distance, that's another discussion, but.
Yeah, that goes back to the quarter acre thing.
Right,
Or the not quarter acre, quarter mile.
yeah, quarter mile or there.
we're saying quarter acre lot.
So anyway, that's my thoughts. I mean, we're all not too far off. If 10,000's a quarter and, you know, we had some 7,000s on the overlay,
Sorry, that's the architect in me saying that.
no, that's great.
RA 15, a quarter.
That's thirds.
To somehow get our ordinance to read that developers, when they do an 18.5, we would allow them to do 2 or 3 in a percentage basis, right? To do 2 or 3 smaller lots incorporated into that 18.5.
That's all you guys. You start it, we'll finish it. Because I've asked for that for a little while, right?
It would increase them to be able to do a few more homes in there, and then you have a family that's maybe can afford this in a little bit nicer neighborhood. They're not in the overlay and then the small neighborhood, and I don't know, I just think it's a good idea. And I
Well,
think it would
Taylor's property is a great example of that, right? It falls in our half-acre zoning. And when I had the discussions with that developer, I says, throw 50, throw 60 of these little patio homes. Throw them in a cul-de-sac here and there, right? And spread them out through that community. I don't want to see them just all in one corner.
Right.
But spread them out in that community and have kind of a mixed-use type thing.
A mixed lot.
And mixed lot use, right?
Yeah.
And they came back and it was 120 of them. And I'm like, no, you misread the.
With
I would-
parks slice and diced. I mean, it was like
Yeah.
unusable little parks spread throughout the whole place. It was.
And they were happy to give us the flood area, and that was nice. But it doesn't matter. My point is even with me trying to work with them and saying, hey, let's put the overlay on this portion and let's do something here, like, it just came back as so much more than any of us were willing to swallow, you know, on that one. And I don't know. I like that idea to have it in there so that Marriott developed this city in third-acre lots. I mean, he's probably provided more building lots in Plain City than anybody. Marriott's. And they were all done in third-acre lots. I mean, you look at S-Curve and Mountain View, there's not one park throughout that whole area, right? So,
Where's my park?
but whatever it was, we never held them to that through planning or council and this is over the last 30 years, right? This isn't us sitting here. This is us just trying to come up with a better plan than what we're used to, right? And actually providing. And so, I mean, I can go with the 10,000s on the overlay, but I still think you're gonna bump that house cost up to, I mean, even these small ones, they're saying 360 on 3,000 square feet. Granted, they're 2 stories. The Ogden homes, you drive through Ogden, what do they have, 50 foot of frontage?
We had
Maybe 60. I mean, that's tight living. That is tight living. But I think we can get away with some of that in a few areas. Not the majority of the city by any means, but I just call it little pocket spots of some of these, you know, developments that are coming through, and I just can't get anybody to bite on it.
Two things, if you don't mind. So don't you think the market's gonna drive that down just a little bit? And then two, you guys, there was some traction on, there's an area that doesn't have a park. That's a prime example. Is it in our master plan to put one in that area? Because if it's not, it's never gonna get built there.
No, it's all built out. It's done.
There's nowhere to put one up there.
There isn't. We have a quarter-acre piece of ground that they couldn't build a house on, that they're gonna deed the city that we're gonna put a little playground on.
And there's nowhere like around that whole area.
Mm-mm. We have detention basins.
Yeah,
Yeah, but, I mean, the people that are on 1975, right, that build on that side, and I think that's Mountain View over there, and S-Curves is over on the south side, or north side.
Mayor, what area are we talking
Where we at?
So, Mountain View subdivision, it's right when you come into Plain City, on both 1975 all the way to 2600. It's built straight through there. It's probably it might be a quarter or a third of a mile wide strip all the way across the east part of Plain City. But like, there was no planning for an east outlet up to 1900 West. Like, there was,
Yeah, that's,
and that was all kind of built when it could have been done. Because I worked for Marriott's when the first phase of, when the irrigation pond on the S-curves went in.
and aren't those all?
Yeah, they're all 30 acres. I mean, there might be a couple that are bigger or something,
Oh,
because they
yeah,
worked out
there's
on a corner.
Acres, I'm looking at it.
But yeah, for the most part, they're all 30-acre lots.
Right.
And so,
Going back to what Adam's saying, as far as, you know, rather than having these parks in the developments, let's use the impact fees to put the parks where we want them,
correct.
which I would love. I think that's a great idea. The problem that I see with that is if we want to build a 5-acre park somewhere, we're gonna have to come up with $500,000 to buy that land.
Yes.
The impact fees help
And
with that.
are we gonna have enough money with them impact fees to purchase that 5-acre lot?
So,
That's, you know, when we do the overlays, at least when we do the overlays, that ground is right there. We allow an overlay, now we can determine what we want in that overlay zone. Now, if we let a 10,000 as RE 10,000, whatever, RE 10 zone, now they don't owe us nothing at that point. Now they're building 10,000 square
Yes.
foot lots.
they're building it out.
Because that's what it's zoned for.
Yes.
Where if we keep it to where we're at with the RE 15s, and you know what, if you want to do the smaller lots, then you submit an overlay. And at that point, we can determine, we have more control of what's put in that area. Just like West Park that you're talking now, Marriott's didn't do anything wrong. Built
No,
it exactly
they
the way
built
we
right to
had it
code.
zoned. He didn't owe us nothing.
No.
That's how
You
it
know.
is already. Like, we don't have anywhere that's zoned for an overlay. It's all RE 15, RE.
Well, yeah, and if they want an overlay, they can come in and present that to us. If they're willing to give up a little to get a little, then we can agree with it.
Yeah, it's only against open space or our trails. And the open space is the buffer. Well, we're gonna have one.
Yeah.
It's coming.
The one that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've had a few phone calls with that developer, and he seems very excited about it and wants to do that, because that's what he says, I don't want to build homes up against the dumps anyway, you know, so.
Well, and we purposely made that overlay ordinance
Restrictive.
city's favor,
Right.
pretty much. And
Which
that
it
was the
could be.
intent,
Yeah,
so.
yep. All right, well, we can, at least we're within 2,000 square feet of a lot, right? Between 8,000 and 10,000 on the overlay stuff?
7,500.
Okay. 75 and 10,000, I
Now you
mean,
sound like an
rounded up.
auctioneer.
yeah.
Yeah, really.
Round it up, that's what we do in the code, so.
We need to get him back this way.
Take the front runner in almost every day, so.
What's our minimum on overlays right now?
So if you go in, if it's zoned quarter acre and they get the overlay, I think they can get 4 full lots per acre. Or is it,
Including the.
oh, it's,
would
no,
be a
it's not, it's on the next page. I was gonna say, this is the general plan, I don't have my laptop to look it up, but I do know in 18.5, it gives them 3 lots per acre.
Yeah.
That's the one I just looked at, right?
Yep. That's,
And I would assume on 3rd-acre lots, it would give them 4, and I think on quarters, it gives them 5. Or something to that effect. I think that's how we done it. Heck, that's been 6 years ago. 7. I mean, I look at it quite often, but. So yeah, if you'll just go to the general plan, you'll look under medium density 1, and that'll tell you how many total lots they can build in it. But,
So this is kind of off topic, but there's 2 equestrian sites on here. Do we want to
no.
prioritize having any more equestrian? Sorry,
Equestrian sites.
equestrian sites. I see there's only 2 listed, do we want to prioritize having any more equestrian sites?
I mean, the mayor had a great idea I think we should pursue, and that is work with the Jacksons Scholarship building.
There was an individual that came and wanted to do one.
There's a couple possibilities that I'm gonna,
I mean, that could be an open space that we consider,
Okay, because it sounds like those would be private. I know there's one that just built a private arena that people could rent out, but
That's the goal.
no, it's
let's say
not.
that louder for the people outside.
No, it's not.
Tell you the horse stories.
Okay, so.
No, we still want large lots. We still want to invite the horse people and it's,
I get approached,
yeah.
Well, when Skeens, they had theirs, they were selling those, full acre and
Yeah.
quarter acre, they sold faster than anything else.
They had a list of people that wanted them.
They got to choose their neighbors.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I mean-
that brings up another thing, is you talked about mixed lot sizes. I think we need to somehow encourage that happening a little more. Because what happens is on a development, like we've seen, you get the larger lots over in one portion. And if they have smaller lots, and it leads to a little bit of segregation, you know, in the community. And I think if we could encourage them to somehow, and it's tricky and it takes a lot of effort, but it can be done to do a mixed lot sizes as part of that, that would be beneficial to us.
I missed the first part of what you're saying, I'm sorry.
Mixed lot sizes.
Mixing people
Yeah.
together.
So, yeah, because what I'm seeing on the Jackson's master plan is, this side has the big lots over here, and this side has the smaller ones over here. And what's gonna happen is, you're gonna have a lot of separation, or even segregation, if you will. And it-
Absolutely.
Honestly, that's the perfect development to do that in, because it's a
Right,
development.
and I've been
agreement,
talking to him about
and
it
it's
for
not
a
like
while.
a specific
Yeah,
zone.
so.
Yeah, I think if you're doing acre lots in a subdivision, I think it works perfect because
Sure.
there's the horse people, and then there's a lot of other people that don't want horses and blowing
Smell it.
dust and everything.
Right.
So they're gonna take, so yeah, I think in that aspect, it's perfect to do the separation, but
I don't know, that's something
If-
I think would work pretty well.
yeah, I think if, you're right though, if you're doing less than acres, you wanna mix it up a little bit, but, you know, but for
Right.
horse property, I'd say let's not mix it up.
Then the neighbors are complaining about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The dust is.
Or other animal
Yeah, I don't
sounds
mind
and smells.
People that don't want horses, it's the people that don't want me to have horses.
Yes.
Right?
That's my, I see it every year,
Yeah.
I got pulled over by Weber County Sheriff for driving a tractor down the road. I mean, at what,
What's the speed limit?
at what
Here-
point does this
Plain City?
1970, well, my dad actually got pulled over, and it was
That's a
probably a
Plain
good
City
thing it was him that got pulled over and for impeding traffic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. I could tell you the names of the guys that impeded traffic, you know, when I was a teenager, and they did it on purpose. So,
Lionel Ma.
At least I didn't have hay forks right at eye level. like
Jaws,
Jaws.
All night.
Yep.
my grandpa.
Right behind him on the motorcycle,
See a
and they're
big
like
old smile on his face while I'm trying to follow him, but trying to pass him, so.
We're digressing just a hair.
Yeah. Let's
He's moving them, so just get out of his way.
all right, let's stick with it here.
Throw going on here.
Yep.
We only have 4 tractors left in town. We love them. And I took care of that situation.
Good.
My daughter waves.
So, I mean, overall, I mean, do we see Plain City as, another thing I look at, I'll just say it, Plain City has always drawn people that work, hard workers, right? They've always, and there's some that have yard care services and whatever, and I don't care. But most of the people that live here, they want to get out and mow their grass. They want to go out and enjoy the yard work, and they take good care. Are there the few that don't? Yes, of course, and you'll have that no matter what. But that's something that we've always drawn is hardworking individuals. I mean, that goes all the way back. And so that is something I don't want to lose as well, right, is that draw. what do we do to continue that, right? What do we,
Do you think that is because when we keep our lot sizes bigger, we're drawing people who want a yard?
Yes.
And they take care of it?
Well, I think that's my argument to the duplex versus my little quarter-acre lot. I love going out and mowing my
Sure.
lawn and having my own space and not shared with whoever, right? You
Yeah, and
can't
I-
choose.
and I'm
You can't
okay with-
choose if they're ownership. Well, you can't choose if it's a rental either.
Or a garden because your wife says we need to.
Yeah.
Well, and going back to
In
the
the front
twin
yard.
homes, if we need a new roof, and I saved up money for a new roof, but
We means both owners.
you need a new fishing boat,
Yep.
we're only roofing half that house. Yeah.
It's a similar dynamic
It's
when your
just-
neighbor wants to
it's-
build a fence between your house.
I'm getting a fishing boat. Heck,
Oh
the
my
roof can work.
gosh, Josh.
So, but anyway, that's also something I want to keep that draw to Plain City, and how do we do that, right? But also allowing, some of this other stuff, and I think in all honesty, a lot of things go back to the overlay. And I honestly think we could create different overlays for different situations. I
Do you
know.
currently only have one?
We only have one residential overlay. And then we have a cluster subdivision as well, but no one has ever applied for the cluster that I know of.
Okay,
And-
Have they?
just one.
No, and the reason we did that is because we,
Just right here, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it didn't fit,
'Cause
conform.
he didn't want to move.
we used to have
exactly.
PRUD ordinances.
Right.
And those were not working. I mean, we saw developments come in and either they would take the amenity they wanted to the city and they'd keep putting it off, or it would change ownership and they'd redesign. There were
Still
financial
Creek.
issues with the HOA. And so we just said, we're not gonna deal with PRUDs here in the city. We're gonna have more control.
Had you been here last meeting, we covered that.
Yeah? Well,
Oh, but, yeah.
I was sorry, I was
No.
So what about opening up the overlays to get away from
Huh?
the trail systems?
Well, and that's what I'm saying, though. Do we create more overlays to give people options, right?
You could.
I have no problem with the one connected to the trails and the open space, right? But like you said, Shauna, do we designate areas?
It's got to be, because if
And-
we just create a new overlay that can go anywhere, they're gonna go everywhere.
Everywhere.
No, it's not, because we can stub our toe walking into council meeting and deny that overlay. That's the beauty of an overlay.
We're talking about this body. What happens when there's new people that come in?
Right.
No, we can't. But
No,
they can also control what overlays and ordinances are changed as well.
Well, that's true.
Right.
It's already.
Well,
And you're gonna see those changes, Shauna, because I can tell you about 15 years ago, when I first came into planning commission, the talk about having a lot size of 10,000 square feet or a quarter acre was
Not even
It-
heard
out
of.
of the
It
question.
was not a discussion point.
But,
We get those guys back.
I'm gonna have to go to the cemetery.
that trend is gonna keep happening,
Yes.
and we need to keep that in mind as we plan too.
Right.
Yeah, all we can do, in all reality, they tell us to plan for 15, 20, 30, even 50 years, right? But everything is gonna change so many times over that time that it will look nothing like what we create. If we wanna go and spend $60,000 to create a 50-year map, there's no way in heck you come back here in 50 years and it looks like what we drew. It will change, right? Because everybody that sits up here and on the commission, they will have those different views.
Oh,
well, it's called evolving too.
Yeah, it's evolution, whatever you want to call it, right? And so, to be quite honest, to designate things around main roads and stuff like that, but Shauna, if you think this parcel would look great with the overlay, and we all agree, then hopefully they build that in that time, right?
It's only eligible for zones in the RE 15.
15, yeah.
Then we can decide where in the city we want RE 15, and then it limits them to be able to.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, but that will take creating different overlays, right? An R15 overlay, an R20 overlay, if you want to. I'm not against that. Like I said, I brought up creating another overlay.
Do we
There's a
have a
lot.
ballpark figure on how many rooftops we have to have in the city in order to be sustainable?
We're sustainable.
But what I'm saying is if, once we're built out, this is our goal of having this many rooftops. And at that point,
Infrastructure-wise and.
and that point, we look at, okay, we're gonna have 1,000 rooftops. We'll put 300 of them here, we'll put 250 of them on half acre, we'll put 100 of them on 10,000 square foot. And that way, it's
I don't know
kinda,
that,
You could have one rooftop, how much property tax do you wanna pay?
Yeah.
That's what it amounts to.
Right.
my property
But I
tax
know what
has
you're
not
saying.
gone down at all
I think yours
with
are-
all the growth that we've had lately.
Well,
Kids
and
didn't affect my.
It won't, because things are getting more expensive every day. That's just the way the market's going
Sell.
in the economy.
And they want to
I
build.
do wanna bring one thing up in the mayor. I know Jared brought it up, and he brought it up, and I hope he wasn't bringing it up for political reasons, but the legislature, we need to make sure we're planning so that, how do I say this?
so they back off?
Not necessarily,
Yeah. We need.
I just read an article the other day, if we, not just we as Plain City, but the state, we know this, the mayor and I have talked quite a bit about this as we went down to the Capitol and things last year. If we don't do something that kind of gets them off our back, doesn't matter what we're talking about here, folks, in a few years, we're gonna have no power.
Yeah, they'll
Yeah,
take all control.
they're gonna, yeah.
And that is coming a lot quicker than we all think it is. This 50-year plan,
Oh, absolutely.
So,
they're gonna get in.
My-
Not be,
That doesn't matter, you're not gonna,
So
you're not
I'm-
gonna stop.
I
it.
spent
Have
I
the
spent
money.
a day at the Capitol this year with
Sucks, but-
Right, and he's gonna come and report. He was gonna report tonight, but he had to cancel, so.
I wanna talk to him too.
But that was my whole conversation with him was, we don't even know what benefit we've created because we really haven't been able to implement everything that we've been forced to do so far, right? We've seen a little bit, right? But like, how's it affected, how many vacant apartment buildings are there in West Haven? I don't know.
Yeah.
Is there 5 or is there 1,000, right? I don't know. But that's what they need to do before they start shoving more down our throats,
right.
is get that study and figure out where are we at?
And that's
You
where
know,
you need,
because that,
and you need to fight and say, look,
Yeah, and
we're not
so-
doing it until you give us the numbers. Oh,
Yeah, and
Well-
Agreed.
that's the problem is what the legislation is.
it's a
what the-
blanket.
What they're mandating, to
exactly.
me, seems like an urban solution where we're dealing with a rural problem.
Yeah.
That article that
So-
you sent everybody the other
Oh,
day.
man.
Right.
Totally.
Made a lot of sense.
He said so many of the things that I actually told, what's his name?
Matt.
Matt, when I was sitting on the floor with him during the session, and we were just kind of having our own quiet conversation, and he's got a ton of support with him. 'Cause I talked to him about it before the session started, and he told me what bills were gonna be looking at housing stuff, and I'm like, just tell him to stop. Just tell him to stop and look and let us catch up for one, right? Small cities, and there's tons of us, Hooper, Plain City, Willard, all these cities,
Very.
we're still trying, Perry, we're still trying to catch up, right? We kind of got ahead a little bit, but we still haven't seen the effects of them. And so that was my plea to him, and he actually talked to quite a few different representatives down there, and they're like, yeah, it's time to stop. And so that one bill,
was our rep. I hope one of them was Gwen.
well, yeah, that's the one I was speaking with, right?
Yeah.
What happens if we don't abide by the state mandate?
We start losing funding.
I've reached out to him.
We need their funding.
Sure.
So,
I mean, at the end of the
Yeah,
day, we're
you do.
sustainable.
Right.
How much of their
so
funding
the
do we
bill
need to
did get quashed.
we do whatever they
Bill is
say?
squashed.
Apparently, a
Just
bunch
that, the
of
developers will see the same.
representatives all
That's what I'm
across,
asking. That's what I'm
Yeah.
asking. I don't
all
know.
political parties,
I've heard that a
um,
lot,
came
and that's what
back
the
saying
tactic is, but that's not
no.
what I'm worried about.
and the representatives that are pushing it saying, okay, the messaging was bad. They said that we're taking the power away from the small cities, so we're still going to push it, but we're gonna try and change the messaging. So we need to basically keep, no, it's not the message. We know what you're saying,
Funding's a scare tactic.
but we need to tell them, like you said, no, you need to take a step back. Think about what's being said. Let us work through everything you've thrown down at us right now. See where things are going. But it has been quashed right now. It's just the leadership wants to change the messaging so that the small towns can understand what they're trying to do.
Right.
So reach out to your leadership saying, we know exactly what you're
Know
trying.
what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
If you change your language, maybe we'll be happy with it.
Exactly.
Know what you're trying to
So reach out to the leadership and say exactly what the mayor said. No, you need to take a step back.
No, so Adam did make a great point, though. If we don't start doing something,
Yeah.
we will lose full control.
Right.
Like, we may as well not even have a planning commission and a city council that even looks at one single plan that comes in.
Right.
It'd be staff making sure that utilities are right.
What's that?
Yes.
They're gonna make those changes anyway.
And then you got AI
didn't-
reviewing.
Mayor, what'd you say?
Huh?
I mean, there is
Last comment.
legislation
No, I'm just saying, I just echo what you said, right?
that
Heard you say that, but what'd you
suggests that as an alternative.
Well, so, say that again?
Well,
So
yeah,
there is
see where
legislation
staff just reviews utilities
Oh.
on a plan.
that says they can use AI reviews of drawings
What the single?
as an alternative when
No,
cities
all
cannot
planning commission will talk about is how many
turn it
chickens.
over in a time frame.
Yep,
Serious.
So,
code violation.
Oh.
They just refused to censor a lawyer who submitted a brief
Yeah.
filled with errors because it was written by AI.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're trying, the whole point of it is to expedite the review process so that,
Yes.
so that so the homes can be built in a bigger, in a quicker
Quicker
fashion.
way.
So I've got a question. I bought my house 9 years ago, paid $1,200 a month on mortgage, and in this 9 years, it's bumped up to $1,400 a year. What would have changed in the 9 years to change it? Is it taxes? What? Because that's also affecting. Yeah.
Your
Not
escrow,
200.
Your
your
escrow.
escrow that
So
covers
what-
your property taxes and your
That's
homeowner's.
the only way it could have went
Because
up.
I'm trying to figure out, like, what else would have changed in the city that would price out our residents?
Plain City taxes.
Still,
For the
that's-
county, the school, my taxes have gone up.
Okay.
It's all connected.
I was wondering if it was something citywide that we could.
No.
Right.
no, the city hasn't increased taxes. It's
We
actually,
haven't ever.
our percentage
we're
is
like the
actually-
lowest in.
we're the lowest city that has a tax.
That's what I thought.
There's a few cities, West Haven and Hooper, do not have a property tax.
Okay, so it's not our city's fault.
The only reason your taxes go up is because your value's going up.
Oh, okay.
Or your neighbor builds a subdivision, which forces your value to go up.
That hasn't happened yet. We're waiting for the farm across the street to do that.
So,
Yeah, but that's
Okay.
not a bad thing. If it doesn't, then you don't want your house to lose value.
I plan on selling my house.
Well,
I
as
could
long as
care
I'm
less
not
what-
selling, I want it to.
You can tell me however much.
Okay.
I'd be
Be worth.
interested to talk to some of the residents when we built the grocery store, when they came in and said their property would lose their value because of the grocery store.
Oh, my gosh.
all right.
Let's not go
Let's,
there.
yeah, we're not going there. We're not going to Hooper.
Had a good, nice,
Tangent we
perfect.
don't wanna go, yeah.
Okay,
Is there anything else that you wanted to?
just, like I said, this was kind of a, get it started, get the ball rolling in your mind about
I think overlays.
getting on the same page, knowing that we are gonna be forced. And I think if we
Get ahead
stay
of
ahead
the
a
curve.
little bit, possibly look at more overlay stuff. I know that's a lot of work for planning commission, but, you know, we pay you big bucks to, you know, sit in those meetings. And so, hopefully we can get some discussion going and thoughts, and you can send it up to the council and we'll crush it.
Okay.
I don't even get a snicker. He's buried in his phone or something.
So,
Writing notes. I didn't
Don't
hear what
write
you
that down. Okay, does anybody have any last words they want to say?
The only thing I had is that the biggest things that I'm thinking of coming out of this meeting in my mind that we've talked about is the size of the lot, right? The overlays, which will help with that or whatever. The parks and trails and making sure we're planning well for those type amenities and whatever other amenities we want, frankly. And then also, to me, this general plan, we better be making sure we're worrying about legacy and how we need to work around that, because that is going to be huge. So,
Yeah.
I don't know if that sums it up or not.
That's what I had. to-
Okay, good.
Good job.
Okay, well,
There's-
we'll end this work meeting and go home to our families, huh?
Love it.
Thank you. Appreciate everybody. We will be doing this again. Possibly even maybe sit down and put an overlay together. Try to get somewhere on that.
That'll be fun.
I think the 17th is our, no, 13th is our next one, over to Jackson. Which one? She is just getting bigger and
okay.
bigger. She's gonna have a baby in April,
These are the
so she's married now.